Tonight, the sensational trial that just finished. Why would a beloved family man suddenly disappear on his family and friends?
And then tell them not to come looking for him. The stunning courtroom confession on an all-new 2020 beginning right now.
I'm living in the Twilight Zone and I can hear the theme song going on.
He opened the door and he was covered in blood.
He was here one moment, gone the next. There's no goodbye, there's no I'll talk to you later, there's no nothing. He was gone.
They were getting these weird messages.
Roses are red, violets are blue, my wife is a whore, your husband is too.
My family and I are begging you, asking for your assistance.
Nothing added up. Nothing made sense.
Had she ever mentioned anything about my concerns about Mike?
She's sobbing. She's just, I know he's coming around. There's stuff, doors that were closed or open. And
Lori told her that Mike got picked up in a black SUV one day, never came back. And I started putting those pieces together.
It made it alarming. It gave me chills. Everything that had been happening for the last 2.5 years was likely a lie.
There was just more and more twists and turns.
They asked, well, when's the last time you seen him? And frankly, I said, years.
What?
This is Claremont, Florida, a rural community about 20 miles west of Orlando, but a world apart from the tourist-filled amusement parks. Michael and Lori Shaver were raising their 2 children here when his lifelong friend, Scott Amatuccio, started to get worried.
We were best friends. We were just always around each other. I could tell something was off. I just haven't heard from Mike for a while. I had texted him at some point in time. He never responded. And then I'm like, what's going on with Mike's Facebook? I go to his page and he wasn't even my friend anymore.
For friends so close, an unexplained social media slight like this was too strange to ignore. And it turns out Scott wasn't the only one worried.
I would get strange messages. We were just questioning it, like, is he having that many troubles that he has to turn away from his family?
The communication went down and it seemed to be it was just a text or a social media Facebook message.
We had conversations all the time about where's Mike?
Have you seen Mike? Have you heard from Mike?
Someone said Michael just took off in a black SUV and never came back. None of this adds up.
Clearly something wasn't right.
Michael was missing.
He was here one moment, gone the next, just gone.
Everybody's hair was raised and what's going on.
It was that concern that started the unraveling of a years-long mystery as deep and dark as the lakes that surround this place.
Hi, I'm Michael Shaver. Oh, there I am. That's me. See?
Michael grew up the 3rd child of 4 with his brother and 2 sisters in the tiny rural village of Lawrence in upstate New York.
Our relationship was a very special bond. My mom was a single mother, so I would help my mom out whenever she needed help with Michael. I would always put Michael first.
This is a photo of Mike and I. We're at my house that I grew up in. We would just have fun as kids, ride our bikes all day long and go on adventures, always playing around the neighborhood. He was great at playing drums. Eventually he learned to play guitar. We used to have this band. We called it Rifles and Dandelions instead of Guns N' Roses. That was our silly way of coming up with a band.
As a young man, Michael showed a talent for working with his hands.
I played with tools all my life. I believe that the genes were passed on to Michael because as a kid he used to repair stuff around the house.
He would go around the town and people would actually give him stuff. He would fix it.
He may take an old bicycle or something and fix it up and make it work again for somebody. And it's like a sense of accomplishment, saying, I fixed that.
One time, him and his friend built an airplane out of wood in the backyard. And I swear if they'd had a motor, they would have taken off with it. It was really something. You should have seen it.
Michael's love of tinkering with things, I believe, led him to wanting to work on airplanes. And then as he got a little older, he wanted to learn how to fly.
Flying wasn't the only thing Michael loved. By the time he'd gotten to high school, his head was also in the clouds for Lori Paddleford, seen here in their yearbook.
We all grew up together. It was around 7th or 8th grade. Mike had a crush on Lori. He wanted to figure out the best way to ask her out. We had come up with this great idea of playing Boys to Men in the background. So that's how they ended up dating.
I don't think I really understood how serious it was until after they graduated. Then they were talking about marriage.
This is a picture of Mike and I at his wedding. I was his best man, and this was us together.
Their wedding was beautiful. Lori, she was so happy. I remember Michael couldn't stop smiling.
He eventually got his commercial pilot license, worked for Piedmont.
He loved it, and he used to take his friends up and do loop-the-loops with them, and they loved it.
Soon, Michael and Lori became parents to daughter Isabel and her younger brother Aiden. After moving up and down the East Coast, Michael and his family ended up in the Sunshine State.
So when I moved down to Florida, it's when they moved down to Florida.
They moved to Claremont, bought a property, 5 acres. It's pretty rural. It's beautiful lakes, some rolling hills. It's pretty quiet.
He had chickens and guineas and turkeys and quite a few ducks, and he wanted them to have their own duck pond.
In his off hours, he worked as a mechanic for Precious Metal, a local flight team that performs and races all over the country.
We were both volunteers for the Precious Metal air racing team. Reno air racing has been compared to NASCAR of the sky. It's multiple planes on a closed course at one time. Speeds are up to 500 miles per hour. You're 50 feet off the ground. It's a huge adrenaline rush. We spent several years, several long nights, sometimes 3 days in a row working on the plane together. The people who described him as a genius, I would agree. He just took care of it. You knew that the job was going to be completed as it should.
Lori worked from home for an insurance company while Michael was away for days at a time working as a pilot. Wanting to be with his family more, Michael quit the airline business for another dream job, this one at the most magical place on Earth.
Mike and I worked at Epcot together. He was a mechanic.
Working at Disney was just his little kid inside, and he loved that job. You know, he was flourishing.
But then, for some reason, dependable Michael just stopped showing up.
He was here one moment, gone the next. No goodbye, no nothing.
It seemed Michael Shaver was blowing off his friends, his family, even his job.
When the manager contacted Mike, Mike's response was, "You can go ahead and fire me, I'm not coming back."
But if Michael Shaver wasn't coming back, where exactly was he going?
And I was the neighbor for Lori and Mike Shaver. Mike was about the same age as my oldest son, so he was kind of like another son to me. My home was probably 50 feet away from their home, no trees in the middle. I would be just outside doing my chores and I could hear the arguments happening inside. I talked to Lori. I just said, "You guys okay? You know, I hear you fighting sometimes."
Lori acted like everything was fine. She was all smiles and he was all smiles, and they covered it up pretty good.
I had no idea the extent of what was going on. I guess that's typical. Nobody knows what's really going on inside the house.
On a hot, late summer afternoon, the simmering tension inside the house erupts.
911, do you need police, fire, or the ambulance service? Please, I'm on my way to the sheriff's office right now. I got my kids lost. What's going on? It was a domestic violence dispute. My hand is bleeding.
I had just gotten home from work and my phone rang and it was Mike. And he said, "Can you come over? I need your help." He opened the door and he was covered in blood. Blood streaming down his face. There was torn clothes. I took a whole lot of photos just in case he needed it at any point in the future.
There was a domestic abuse incident in September of 2014 at Michael and Lori's house.
We are dealing with a scenario where we have the allegations made by Lori Shaver.
Lori tells the 911 operator she and Michael have been fighting a lot lately, but it never got physical until that night.
I grabbed my gun because he has a gun and I hit him in the head with it. I grabbed my kids and left. He pulled out a gun on you? Oh, yeah. He grabbed my car keys and stuck them in his pocket. I fought him to get my keys out of his pocket, and then I grabbed my kids.
Mike's version of events was she was the one that grabbed the gun. She was the one that was initiating the violence. He was trying to calm the situation down.
He said that they had been in a fight and Lori had threatened to kill him and herself, and that they had wrestled with a gun.
Has there been any drinking tonight? Yes, there has. We've probably had 3 beers since 2 o'clock. You both had 3 beers? Yeah.
Michael admits he kept the car keys from Lori to prevent her from leaving, but he says that's because he didn't want his wife driving with the kids after she'd been drinking. Both say during the struggle, Lori hit Michael on the head with her revolver.
The revolver that was on the bed looked like a .38, and it had pink plastic grips. Then I noticed there were roses all over the floor.
She didn't go up to Michael Shaver and just wail on Michael Shaver. He had a handgun he pulled on her, and I believe she tried to deflect the gun and it hit him.
Police are unable to determine who started the physical altercation with the pistol.
Ultimately, Michael is arrested for not anything dealing with the firearms, but he admitted, "I grabbed her," and law enforcement arrested him for battery.
The battery charge is ultimately dropped, but things are never the same between the childhood sweethearts.
Both Michael and Lori dug in and pointed fingers at each other.
Lori had been the victim of years of physical abuse by Michael Shaver. These acts were extreme. Lori was locked in a closet. Lori would be physically beaten.
I never heard Mike, scream at Lori or do anything physically. Lori trying to paint Mike into this monster and the abusive person in the relationship. Everybody that knew Mike knew that wasn't the case.
I do think Lori was abusive towards my brother and controlling. She would only let him talk for 20 minutes on the phone to me.
His friends would say that he'd come around and have bruises, and they'd ask him what was the matter, what happened. Oh, Lori got mad.
Michael Shaver was not some innocent victim that married some violent woman. Michael Shaver was an aggressive guy, and she was always the victim of this aggression.
In the fall of 2014, a judge grants a no-contact order against Michael, and he's forced to move out of the house he shared with Lori and his kids.
Mike was staying in the airplane hangar where the precious metals plane was. I just figured it was for a day or two, and then later on I learned that he'd been down there, for a week or even more.
He was living basically at the hangar. There was like a meeting room with some nice big comfortable couches. There was a shower there and a bathroom.
She would kick him out, he would leave, a month or two would go by, and then she would have him come back again.
Michael's friends say that while he was living out of the house, he still keeps tabs on Lori, suspecting she's seeing other men.
When they would split up and Mike would be gone, there would be men that would come over quite often to the house.
Michael believed that Lori cheated on him quite frequently. Lori always denied that she was cheating on Michael. He would say, "What do you think? Does it sound like she's cheating, or am I just losing my mind?"
There was a time where I think Mike just needed to know what was going on at home. He and a friend would fly over Mike's house just to see whose truck was in the driveway, maybe just to make sure nobody was there.
He was willing to overlook that and get past it, but it showed the love that he had of willing to fix stuff to be with his family.
He loved her so much, I guess he forgave her.
Michael's repeated attempts to save his marriage began to strain his other relationships.
I tried to go visit Michael and his children in Florida, and always at last minute, I would get a message saying that Lori said it was a bad time, that we shouldn't come down.
But soon the communication from Michael went from infrequent to almost non-existent. He seemed to simply vanish.
He was there at the tractor show, and then the next week he was gone, and there was nothing in between. It was just gone.
And when Frank checks in with Lori, her answer only deepens the mystery.
According to Lori, Michael blew out of town, didn't want to be part of the family anymore.
Gone without a trace. Or was he?
Michael and Lori had a roller coaster relationship, but in the fall of 2015, things seemed to be going well. So well that Michael has moved back in with Lori and the kids.
I know that he went home and that they were trying to work things out. He had quite a few ducks, and they were staying with the chickens in the chicken coop, and he wanted them to have their own duck pond.
He was digging out a duck pond in the back for her ducks because she wanted to raise ducks and chickens. So he was home, they were back together again.
But then things take another turn. November 7th, 2015, it's a day Frank Merritt says he will never forget. He and his family met Michael and Lori Shaver and their children at a local tractor show.
Oh, it was really hot that day. They do a show 3 or 4 times a year during the winter months. It's just a bunch of antique tractors, and it's like a flea market. Mike was really into that stuff. He really liked that old stuff.
But Michael's friend and co-worker Frank says he could once again sense an unspoken tension between Michael and Lori.
She just wouldn't make eye contact with us. She wouldn't speak with us, and it was just kind of weird because she was usually more bubbly than that. And then he says, "Hey, I gotta go." So they left.
The next time Frank hears from Michael is by text, 2 days later.
He had texted me on Monday that he was gonna have to quit his job to save his marriage. So I just kind of backed out of it. I just left him alone. So when he didn't show up Tuesday, I didn't think nothing of it. It's just, well, he's got some problems. They'll work it out. And then Wednesday he didn't come, and Thursday he didn't come. And it wasn't until Thursday night that our manager came to see us.
After 3 days of no showing at work, Michael's manager reaches out to him and gets a surprising response back.
Mike's response was, "You can go ahead and fire me, I'm not coming back."
So just none of it made sense at all that Michael had sent a text message to his boss just up and quitting. He was known to be a very dependable worker and a diligent worker. That didn't add up at all.
Like, well, if he's not showing up and not calling, I'll go by and check on him.
But when Frank goes to Michael's house looking for answers, he only ends up with more questions.
Lori answers the door. I asked where Mike is at, and she said he's not home. And I said, "Well, what do you mean he ain't here?" And I said, "Well, his car's here." And his car was in the driveway. So she said, "He's not here."
Frank says Lori eventually told him that after a heated argument, Michael stormed off, catching a ride with his friend Robert to Georgia, and she hadn't seen him since.
Mike never told me he wanted to go to Georgia. He had never spoken about wanting to leave the state, leave the marriage, any of that. I thought he was happy here, and we were doing so well, and then it's like, huh? What an idiot. I felt like that was the wrong thing to do, it's just walk away.
I reached out to Lori through Messenger on Facebook, and I said, "Do you know where Michael is?" And she said, "No, he left the kids, he's not paying child support."
This strikes Michael's sister Stacy as completely out of character for the brother she knows.
His kids meant more than anything in the world to him, and he would not just up and leave his children.
And when I was texting with him, he says, "I'm never coming back," and just wasn't answering his phone, never coming back.
I knew they were having some marital problems, so I felt like he needed some space.
He doesn't want to be involved with this craziness.
Could Michael have finally had enough of his rocky marriage and decided to ditch it all, his job included, and head north to start over?
It was his dream job. He would never quit. Nothing added up. Nothing made sense.
What was strange and unusual about the messages that Mike was sending to his friends and family?
The common theme of all of them would have been, "Leave me alone. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Just leave me alone. I don't have family."
He didn't want to be found. He wanted to be left alone. He was not coming back. He had abandoned his family and he was gone.
These text messages were completely out of character for Michael. I think that the family really noticed that very quickly.
Michael's niece, Desiree Ruggles, got this text from him, flat out saying, "I don't have a family."
Is there a reason why he's pulling away from our family? Because he doesn't talk to us anymore? Does he just need time? And I got a little angry, and I'm just like, you know what? If you don't want to be a brother, don't be a brother.
Just when it seems he's gone for good and his wife Lori is moving on,
Lori met Jeremy at a park and their children began to play together.
Michael Shaver seems to show back up. Had she ever mentioned any concerns about Mike?
Yes. She goes, "I know he's coming around. I know he's harassing me. There's doors that were closed or open." And I'm like, "You need to get a restraining order."
Michael Shaver seems to be abandoning his life. He hasn't shown up to work, and when friends and family reach out to him, they get messages saying, "Just leave me alone."
According to Lori, Michael blew out of town, didn't want to be part of the family anymore, left the state.
Over time, with no sign of Michael, Lori moves on with her life, meeting a new man, Jeremy Townsend, or Jay, as he's often called.
He's in the military or was in the military. They ended up exchanging numbers and a relationship developed.
Lori's fresh start also includes getting fit. She starts working with a personal trainer named Rebecca Filmer.
That a girl? Way to work, way to work.
How did you meet Lori?
So I originally met her at Gold's Gym. I met her through her then boyfriend, Jay Townsend. He introduced us as his girlfriend at the time. She had just lost a lot of weight and she wanted to start working out. Lori was super sweet. She was just someone that was very easy to talk to. She liked going out to dance and stuff. So we just kind of connected.
Now you end up becoming roommates. You moved in this neighborhood with her.
Yes, we became friends pretty close.
So close that Lori confides in her about relationships with men, including what Lori says was a difficult marriage to Michael Shaver.
She told me she was in this relationship that he made her feel bad about herself. And I started to understand why she wanted to lose so much weight, why she was so focused on her appearance. I mean, in session, she'd be in the mirror, like fixing her hair and making sure everything was just so.
And even though it seemed Michael had initially skipped town, Rebecca says Lori told her that she started to sense that he was back.
There was a time we're sitting in the living room and she's sobbing. She's just, "I know he's coming around. There's stuff, doors that were closed or open." And I'm like, "You need to get a restraining order, if it's getting that bad." She says, "No, I don't want to be bothered. It's just gonna kind of open up a whole nother can of worms.
Rebecca says Lori told her that she was divorcing Michael once and for all and moving on with her life.
And she goes, oh, I had the court appearance to settle their divorce. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, how did that go? She said it was settled. She's officially divorced. And I was like, perfect.
But Lori's new relationship is far from perfect. She knows that man she's been seeing, Jeremy Townsend, is already married.
Jeremy's wife didn't know about Lori.
And Jeremy doesn't seem to be leaving his wife anytime soon, something that texts between the two show was creating a strain on their relationship. In April 2016, Jeremy's wife, Vanessa, gets a surprise. She's at work one day when she receives a flower delivery, but it's not from Jeremy. The delivery comes with a strange card.
Roses are red, violets are blue. My wife is a whore. Your husband is too. Sorry about this. Check your Facebook message. We need to talk. Mike.
Then Jeremy's wife goes onto Facebook and finds a message from Michael Shaver informing her of the affair. He says he's installed a spy app on Lori's cell phone, and he includes screenshots of texts and explicit photos between Jeremy and Lori.
Basically, Mike was outing this affair.
Lori's relationship with Jeremy implodes after his wife finds out.
It was clear that he wasn't going to be leaving his wife. They were going to work it out, and him and Lori were over.
Lori moves on from Jeremy pretty quickly to another guy, Travis.
Travis Filmer was a youth leader at a local church. Lori met him through Rebecca.
I didn't know anything about her, but from appearances, she was really put together. I knew that she had kids. I saw how she interacted with the kids. So for me, that was a very important thing. I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted a family. I know when I was a kid and my parents got divorced, it destroyed me.
The sparks between Travis and Lori first flying during a bonfire get-together at Lori's house.
Her smile is the one thing that just, stood out to me. It drew me to her.
After that night, it was Travis this, Travis that, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go. I think she has a type. When I've seen pictures of Mike and, the way that he would dress, it was similar to Travis.
We ended up going out to dinner. We just hit it off. We had a lot in common and decided to keep seeing each other.
Lori also told Travis details about her relationship with Michael.
From the things that she described to me, it was a very bad situation. She had told me that they were divorced. And I did ask if she was receiving any child support. And she told me that she wasn't, that he didn't want anything to do with the kids.
I'm Kendall Windsor. I'm Travis Filmer's mother. Lori was lovely. It was like he was with us one day, and then the next thing you know, he's living with Lori.
This is the person I want to be with. Not only did I fall in love with Lori, but I fell in love with Aiden and Isabel too.
Travis and Lori's love affair is moving quickly, and on New Year's Eve 2016, they decide to have a wedding ceremony right here in Lori's backyard.
We had friends, family come over. It was fantastic.
I was told they were getting married this day, that time, and I showed up.
Lori had fixed up the 5-acre property prior to the occasion, putting in a backyard fire pit. The couple later etched their initials into the concrete around it. Lori walked out to the Brantley Gilbert song, Fall Into Me.
And so we're sitting on bales of hay.
So Lori has moved on and put her ex Michael Shaver behind her, but Michael's friends and family have not been able to do the same, still wondering why it's been so long. At this point, more than 2 years since any of them have laid eyes on him.
Clearly something wasn't right.
And that lifelong friend, Scott Amatuccio, is about to make a stunning discovery.
It made my stomach sink right away.
Year's Eve 2016, Lori Shaver and Travis Filmer had a wedding ceremony in their backyard.
Until death do us part.
Just steps from that fire pit where their initials are etched in the concrete. And a year later, the couple had even more to celebrate.
And I looked at her and I was like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm pregnant." And I was just floored, like absolutely floored.
They would quickly add another child to their growing brood, along with the 2 kids Lori shared with her ex, Michael Shaver. Michael hadn't been seen by friends and family since he seemingly walked away from his life.
Michael would pop up every now and then with Facebook messages to his family, to his friends. I don't want to be bothered. I'm working on myself.
Even though the years were passing, friends and family said the occasional texts and Facebook messages led them to believe Michael wanted to be left alone.
Everybody rationalized it as give the man space. We knew what he was going through with the family by this point.
Yeah, I should have probably texted Mike more and called him, but we were never much into texting or phone calls. I had my first daughter, and I was so consumed in that. It was just
basically everything he owned.
Yes.
He walked away with nothing. I don't even know that he took his toothbrush.
Katina tells Scott that during that visit, she asked Lori where Michael was.
Lori told her that Mike got picked up in a black SUV one day, never came back. He would never do that to his family or kids. In a vacuum, you're not going to put anything together, but you start getting these other details. Clearly, something wasn't right. It's those details that made my stomach sink right away.
Eventually, Scott pieces together that no one has seen or spoken to Michael in 2.5 years. He decides it's time to reach out to Michael's sister in upstate New York to compare notes.
Scott and I just happened to be messaging back and forth one night, and we're like, none of this adds up.
Stacy and I had been talking. They were getting these weird messages. They'd be kind of short, out of character.
There was a wording that he didn't use. He never called me bro.
There was a couple there that said, "Just leave me alone. I'm moving to California." Just some crazy stuff that just didn't sound like him whatsoever.
He had texted me one day and asked, "What's Mom's number?" I tried to call her. It must have been changed. My mother's phone number has been the same for 30 years.
With his suspicions growing, Scott does what any of us might do when trying to track down his now long-lost friend. He logs onto Facebook.
I wasn't too active on Facebook back then, so I go to his page. And then I had noticed the profile picture had just been updated the month prior to some group of guys in a bar. I had to zoom in and make sure nobody looked like Mike in that picture.
Scott then does a reverse Google image search, trying to determine where this photo came from. Turns out, it matches a photo from a Bloody Mary mix company.
Clearly, somebody took that picture online and put it as his profile picture.
And Michael's recent posts also seemed off. They were different from what he typically posted in the past.
His activity on Facebook was usually pictures of himself, pictures of friends, pictures about the plane that they would work on. All of that ended, and then it started up with various silly memes that were just not in keeping with his personality whatsoever.
Michael's friend Scott, along with his sister Stacy, knew it was time for something drastic.
Since I was in New York and Scott was in Florida, Scott told me that he would go to the police.
And when I called, I said, "I'd like to file a missing person report." They asked, "Well, when's the last time you seen him?" And frankly, I said, years. They didn't take me seriously at first because you now file a missing person report years later.
Scott is able to convince police in Florida that his concerns are serious enough to warrant a welfare check. And when a deputy goes to Lori Shaver's house, something catches his eye that's been hiding in plain sight for years.
And that's when I really started to get chills up my back.
I'll take you there to see for yourself.
This has got to be the strangest case in my career.
What happened to your husband, though? Have you not seen him since 2015?
I had to rethink and re-question myself. Everything that had been happening was likely a lie.
And just when you think you know where the story is headed, a new twist.
Today, I'm coming to you. My family and I are begging you, asking for your assistance.
Everyone was just like, what?
There was just more and more twists and turns.
I'm living in the Twilight Zone and I can hear the theme song going on.
I've seen it on TV, on the news, but I never, ever imagined this would be happening next door to me.
That's when you knew something was up.
We just started asking her questions about the whereabouts of Michael Shaver.
Did she say why he left? What happened?
She did not. She has no idea where he would be.
Lori called me crying, saying the police are here and they're looking for Michael.
He proclaimed he had the special skills to kill somebody.
When you walked out here, were you immediately surprised?
I really started to get chills up my back.
But what about the chills when a totally unexpected person confesses?
Everyone was just like, what?
When you have a witness take the stand that says, I had a role in it, that's pretty incredible.
I know it sounds weird. I know it does.
The reality was that he was digging his own grave.
That was one of the most bizarre videos I've ever seen.
This has got to be the strangest case in my career that I've ever seen. It was as though this guy had literally just vanished.
November 7th, 2015 was the last time anyone saw Michael Shaver alive. His family hadn't seen him. His friends hadn't seen him.
No one had actually talked to him on the phone or talked to him in person. It was very weird.
They will tell you he would never, ever leave his 2 children.
He had 5 acres of property and a tractor. He walked away with nothing.
It's been 2.5 years since anyone has seen or spoken to Michael Shaver. His loved ones are concerned. So his longtime friend, Scott Amatuccio, decides to call law enforcement. He requests a welfare check.
So this is South Claremont. We're probably 40 minutes northwest of Orlando. So this is a very rural area.
Corporal Corey Anderson was one of 2 deputies that respond to the welfare check call that day in February 2018.
It was out of the ordinary. I haven't seen a call like that in a long time.
What about it felt unusual to you?
Usually, a well-being check is, hey, I haven't heard my friend in a while. Can you go check on him or have him call me? Not anything like he's missing, he's not responding to calls, he's making posts that aren't like him to make. People just don't up and leave, you know?
So you pull up to the house. What's the first thing you do when you get here?
Deputy Morris and I, we meet, and then we approach the house together.
Did someone answer the door?
Yes, Miss Shaver answered the door. She had a 2-week-old infant in her arm, so she stood on the porch and we just started asking her questions about the whereabouts of Michael Shaver.
What was her demeanor like? Was she friendly?
She was cool as a cucumber, and it made it almost alarming. It gave me chills speaking with her.
Lori really didn't seem very apprehensive or nervous or surprised.
The way that she was answering questions, withholding information.
What kind of withholding of information?
Some of the dates that she used for when he was last seen, the last time he was at work. The day-to-day things that she would know weren't adding up.
Did she say why he left? What happened?
She did not. She simply said that he absconded and has not been seen or heard of. Has no idea where he would be.
Corporal Anderson then asks Lori if he can take a look in the backyard.
She welcomed them onto the property. She appeared to be very cooperative. She appeared as though she had nothing to hide. Obviously, they noticed it was a beautiful, sprawling 5-acre piece of property, and they were able to walk the outside of the property and look around.
The deputies noticed multiple outbuildings in the backyard, as well as a chicken coop, rabbit hutch, a fire pit, and an above-ground swimming pool. But when they ask if they can perform a more thorough search of the backyard, things take a turn.
And that's when her cooperation ended suddenly.
She said, "You guys need to get off my property."
Oh, immediately.
And you can contact my attorney. So that was a huge red flag for me.
That's when you knew something was up. She shut that down and couldn't get them out of there fast enough.
So detectives got the report from the deputies, and they began to plan their next steps and how they were going to move forward to get back out to the property and do a more thorough search.
I had just left work. I was on my way home, and Lori called me crying, saying the police are here and they're looking for Michael. She was very upset. She seemed like she didn't really know what was going on.
Lake County deputies say it was his friend who initially reported him missing. Today, we're learning more about Michael Shaver.
I turned on the news, and that's when it hit that he's actually missing, that it's not good.
I remember thinking it's a complete misunderstanding. They're gonna find that he just wasn't where he was supposed to be. It just kind of snowballed into he's missing.
Working to learn what happened to a man who's been missing. Channel 9 was there from the beginning. We went out to her house and said, "Hey, your husband's missing. Is there anything you want to say?"
I wanted to ask you about the sheriff's office investigation into your missing husband.
I have an attorney.
You have an attorney?
Contact attorney Stephen.
She basically told us to get away from her truck, and she didn't want to talk to us. What happened to your husband, though? Have you not seen him since 2015?
His wife didn't report him missing at all, and years go by. You would think a spouse would want to talk and get his picture out, get the information out. She blew by her cameras. She had nothing to say.
Meanwhile, as detectives are digging for more clues into Michael's possible whereabouts, they discover some startling information.
They learned that his driver's license was expired. There was not a new driver's license issued in any other state.
Good luck. Have fun. Thank you.
His pilot's license were expired. There was literally no trace of Michael, no matter what they tried, no matter where they looked.
Detectives then start interviewing Michael's friends, relatives, and co-workers. They start building a timeline to try to pinpoint exactly when someone last laid eyes on him. And it turns out they think it was at that tractor show that Michael and his family attended 2.5 years earlier with his friend and co-worker, Frank Merritt.
He was there at the tractor show, and then the next week he was gone, and there was nothing in between.
And it was just days later that Michael sent that strange text to his boss, abruptly quitting his job.
Based upon all of these bizarre circumstances, we knew something had happened to Michael.
3 weeks after that initial welfare check, detectives finally secure a search warrant for Lori Shaver's property.
It was a huge scene.
There was law enforcement up and down the road.
Investigators come in with cadaver dogs, and they start searching the property.
I've seen it on TV, on the news, but I never, ever imagined this would be happening next door to me.
One of the cadaver dogs is walked along the backyard and alerts to a dirt mound multiple times.
That's when they brought in all the big guns, the big equipment.
We began digging up that yard. We dug a very significant area. We realized that there was nothing to be found there. The fire pit was our next point of interest. Once they started digging, we heard some yelling.
And all of a sudden I noticed activity happening and running around.
I could tell something had been discovered.
Investigators with Florida's Lake County Sheriff's Office are back at Michael and Lori Shaver's home, armed with a search warrant. They're now scouring the property.
And they knew that it was something about that fire pit. Something was going on in that area.
The decision was made to bust up that concrete and dig down below that fire pit to see what we could find.
And there were tents up from investigators as they were excavating and sifting through the dirt.
Once they started digging, we heard some yelling. We knew we were onto something.
I have never seen anything like this before in person in my backyard. Oh, they're running.
At one point, investigators and the crime scene technicians, they're digging in that area. We see them put their hands over their eyes, and we said, hey, something just happened.
And I can tell you that we have found what appears to be a bone that is consistent with that of a human upper arm bone.
They began to dig, and 3 feet below, there was Michael.
A gruesome discovery in a backyard in Florida.
Police are finding what are believed to be human remains.
What did you find in that gravesite?
There was a blue tarp, and beneath the blue tarp were the remains of Michael Shaver. His body was found to be wearing a pair of underwear, a pair of shorts. He had on a pair of socks. There was a piece of a fitted sheet also around the body. So it was evident that the body had been wrapped up and placed in that grave.
How deep was this grave?
About 3.5 feet.
Investigators say the remains were skeletonized and looked like they had been there for quite some time.
When the body was discovered, Lori was sitting in her truck. My photographer and I walked over and we knocked on the window.
I'm on the phone with my attorney right now, and I'm not making a statement.
And shortly after, she took off. It just seemed strange that that's when she decided to take off and leave after being there for hours while the search was being conducted.
3 weeks before the remains were found, back on the day of that welfare check, Corporal Corey Anderson was convinced there was something underneath that concrete.
And this is where the fire pit was?
Yes, the cement slab was here.
It's what he noticed then that raised investigators' suspicions enough to come back with a search warrant.
As I was approaching the cement slab, you could clearly see a depression, and I took out my cell phone and just started snapping pictures.
And you saw that depression. Were you immediately surprised?
I was, and that's when I really started to get chills up my back.
You immediately thought it was a shallow grave?
Absolutely. It's unmistakable. It was the size of a human adult body.
It was really a remarkable sequence of events where a deputy who actually had the experience that this particular deputy did just asked permission, hey, maybe you guys mind if I take some pictures and walk around the back of the yard? The right person saw what started this case.
I mean, I considered Mike my best friend. It's pretty tough knowing that he's laying in the dirt like that.
It was absolutely devastating. Then I had to go and tell my mother. It was the hardest thing in the world I ever had to do.
I just started wailing and crying, and it's a terrible thing. It's just terrible.
As painful as that moment was, Michael's family says, finally, all the hurt and confusion around his unexplained disappearance made sense.
When they said that they got all the remains out, I knew in my heart that was Michael.
Are you guys Michael's family?
You know, even though it couldn't have been identified that day, I knew that it was.
Buried in the backyard, police revealing new clues in the mystery disappearance of a husband.
I mean, that's just not something that we deal with and see every day. The media attention just grew.
Human remains were found buried in his wife's backyard.
The headline for the day was "Missing Man's Body Found in His Backyard." In that same place, his wife had remarried.
In the wedding video, you see her come down to that oak tree where they exchange vows. And her husband is dead, buried underneath that concrete slab that she's walking down to marry the next guy.
She had her wedding virtually on top of her husband's body.
We were sitting in the fire pit, by the fire pit, not knowing that Michael is under that fire pit. That's where I sat.
Until death do us part.
So this whole scenario, it's like I'm living in the Twilight Zone and I can hear the theme song going on. Do, 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 do. That's what's going on in my life.
Excuse me, sir. Do you guys know anything about what's going on inside? No comment?
When they found the remains under the fire pit, I couldn't believe that. Lori had kept telling me that she didn't know of anything.
But now investigators have Lori Shaver in their sights, and they want to hear exactly what she does know and when she knew it. After Michael Shaver's remains are recovered from a shallow grave in the backyard of the home he once shared with his wife Lori, the medical examiner determines that what put him there was a single gunshot to the head.
And the projectile was found inside of the skull. It was pretty much a straight-on shot to the back of the head.
Any DNA, any evidence of who would have put him there?
Pretty much everything in that grave site was sent to Florida Department of Law Enforcement for analysis, and there was no DNA that was found, mostly because of the decomposition process.
So over time, it's really hard to find DNA if it's in the ground, even if it had been there.
Yes.
But to many people's surprise, even after the gruesome discovery, Lori Shaver remains a free woman.
Lori wasn't immediately arrested, and that was something that was pretty frustrating for the family, but investigators had to build a case against her, and they knew that they would only get one shot.
Lori Shaver didn't get arrested right away.
Correct.
Why?
There were still phone records, Facebook records to obtain, and piecing together all of these different pieces of evidence to try to figure out what happened.
We knew he was last seen November 7th and didn't show up to work November 10th. So we believe it happened during those 3 days that he was killed by Lori.
If that's true, that's months before Lori met Travis Filmer, who says he believed she was divorced from Michael Shaver.
Lori didn't divorce her husband. During this time that Michael was missing, Lori never went after him for child support.
Finding out that Lori was not divorced, that was a shock. And detectives are the ones that told me.
Travis says that after Michael's body was found, he and Lori didn't discuss the investigation.
Lori and I, we didn't talk about things. She never told me that there was a body on the property. I know based on my experience with law enforcement and being in trouble, it was extremely important for me to not ask about anything. Did I have questions? 100%. I very much did, but I knew that I could not talk to her about the case.
But detectives are asking questions, interviewing those close to Lori like Katina Vasquez, the ex-fiance of Michael's childhood friend. They wanted to know what she knew about Lori's supposed divorce from Michael Shaver.
She was telling me that she was filing for divorce. And then next thing you know, she's married. And I was like, how does that happen that quick? Like, it was just weird. Like, I'm like, this makes no sense.
Investigators also tracked down that friend of Michael's who Lori said picked him up in a black SUV and drove him to Georgia.
Did you ever give him a ride to Georgia?
Georgia? No.
No. Do you recall what kind of vehicle you owned?
I believe it was a Mitsubishi Galant.
Do you remember what color it was?
Blue.
When detectives talk to the Shavers' neighbor, Wilma, they hear something really dark and unexpected. She tells them Michael Shaver actually started the project that eventually became the fire pit and concrete slab where his body was found.
He was working very hard to make her a duck pond back there. And the reality of what he was doing was that he was digging his own grave.
What physical evidence was there?
We have a body buried in the backyard. We have evidence of a gunshot wound. And we have a caliber bullet that was consistent with the type of weapon that was sold by Lori Shaver.
Another witness comes forward to say that after Michael disappeared, leaving everything behind, Lori began selling his belongings.
You are the owner of JB Guns in Bushnell, Florida, is that correct?
I am, yes, sir. After I had seen the news report and I saw the lady's picture, as in the wife of the missing person, I was like, I bought all of his guns, I'm pretty sure of. She's like, well, he just up and left. And I'm just selling all this stuff.
Key to this case, police think Lori Shaver was hiding that her husband was gone for good, pointing to data suggesting those Facebook updates and messages to family and friends, seemingly from Michael, were actually coming from her.
These Facebook message postings by both Lori Shaver's account and Michael Shaver's account had the same IP address, which means the same person was using them both.
Everything pointed back at Lori Shaver.
More than 2 years after Michael Shaver's remains were found, his wife has now been arrested for his death.
Lori Shaver is charged with second-degree murder with a firearm. She pleads not guilty.
I didn't understand how she was possibly arrested. Yes, they're saying that they found a body on the property. Yes, they're saying that Lori had some major involvement in this. There's always two sides to a story. There always is. There's no doubt in my mind that Lori she didn't kill Michael.
After about 2.5 months in jail, Lori Shaver is released on bond.
That's when this bizarre video surfaces of Lori and her defense attorney making a plea to please donate to her defense fund.
Good morning, I'm Jeffrey Weggs. Sitting to my left is Lori, a client of mine.
I don't know why I've been targeted, why I've been set up, or charged with this heinous crime. I am not guilty. I am a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a neighbor, I'm a servant of God, I'm a wife, and I am a devoted mother of 4.
In that same video, Lori's attorney says his client is innocent, and at trial, they are prepared to say who actually killed Michael Shaver.
We're not going to mention his name. He proclaimed he had the special skills to kill somebody.
As her trial nears, Lori Shaver's attorney makes another shocking claim. Now, it's not just one person responsible for her husband's murder, but 2. And who they say that second shooter is takes everyone by surprise.
Honestly, I've never heard such craziness.
Happening today, jury selection will begin in the trial of a Claremont woman accused of killing her husband.
In September, almost 9 years after Michael Shaver was last seen alive, prosecutors are now hoping to prove that Lori Shaver was the one who killed him. But they'll have to do it without fingerprints, DNA, or other forensic evidence.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a case about common sense.
In your opening remarks, you made the comment that you have to use a little bit of common sense here.
We have the defendant's husband buried in her own backyard, and that points directly to Lori Shaver.
In their opening statement, the defense finally discloses who they say actually killed Michael Shaver. It wasn't Lori, it was Jeremy Townsend, or Jay, that man she had an affair with before meeting Travis. And they say someone else fired a shot too. Lori's then 7-year-old daughter, Isabel.
I shot my dad. That was a bombshell.
The defense presents a stunning story to the jury.
Isabel Shaver, and this young girl, in desperation and in fear, runs and retrieves a firearm as she believes she shot Michael.
They were separated. Michael came in the residence one morning. Lori was getting the children ready for school. Lori refused to go back with him. He got angry, started beating on her. Lori ended up on the floor. Isabel retrieved a handgun, and she believes she shot Michael Shaver.
And at that very moment, the defense says Jeremy stormed into the house and took control.
And walks Jenny, takes a gun from Isabel, shoots Michael Shaver, says, Lori, get these kids out of here, I'll take care of this.
But prosecutors say this story is preposterous. They argue that Lori Shaver acted alone and killed Michael for her own selfish reasons, to be with her then boyfriend, Jeremy Townsend.
What is the motive here?
Lori really wanted to be with Jeremy. She actively sought to ruin that relationship between Jeremy and his wife.
She pretended to be Michael in order to out Jeremy to his wife. And she tried to do that through Facebook messages from Michael's Facebook account. And when she didn't get a response from Jeremy's wife, Vanessa, she sent a bouquet of flowers to Vanessa with a card.
The card that came with those flowers, did that include a message?
It did.
And can you go ahead and read that message to the jury, please?
Sorry.
That's okay. Ms. Townsend, is this a difficult day for you?
It is. It says, roses are red, violets are blue. My wife is a whore. Your husband is too. Sorry about this. Check your Facebook message. We need to talk. Mike.
The flowers that were delivered to Vanessa Townsend were actually paid for from Lori Shaver's bank records.
Up until this point, did you have any knowledge that your husband was potentially having an affair?
No.
Lori was convinced that Jay was leaving his wife, and that couldn't have been further from the truth.
State calls Jeremy Townsend.
He walked into the courtroom in a suit, but he looked like Aquaman with the long hair.
Was there ever a time that Lori Shaver expressed to you that she wanted you to leave your wife to be with her?
Yes.
And was that what you wanted?
No. They're supposed to be friends with benefits, no strings attached.
He went on and said, I had nothing to do with this.
At any point did you shoot or injure Michael Shaver?
No.
At any point were you involved with disposing of the body of Michael Shaver?
No.
And after the affair was exposed, what happened with your relationship with Lori?
I cut it off.
They say it's not the crime that gets you caught, but the cover-up. And prosecutors argue that Lori's attempts to impersonate Michael online show all the signs of a badly executed cover-up.
Facebook helped solve the murder.
Michael's family up north had heard from his Facebook account.
Was there a period of time where you reached out to Michael Shaver in an attempt to communicate with him?
Yes. It says, hey, Uncle Michael.
And what was that response?
Who are you? I don't have any family anymore. I have no clue who you are. No, stop messaging me.
Lori was using his cell phone and his Facebook account to present this facade that Michael was still alive.
The defense argues the digital evidence is unreliable. It could have been anyone accessing Michael Shaver's Facebook account.
You'll ask yourself this, how does this digital data prove that Lori Shaver killed Michael Shaver? It doesn't.
But prosecutors say they have more than digital evidence. They argue that Lori had access to multiple firearms that could have killed Michael Shaver, including the pink and black .38 caliber revolver that she sold after Michael was last seen.
Did you examine that firearm?
Yes, I did.
Were you also provided a projectile recovered from the skull of Michael Shaver?
Yes. The projectile was in very rough condition.
Despite the damaged condition of that projectile, were you able to determine the caliber?
In this case, the caliber was determined to be .38 caliber class.
But the defense points out that the bullet recovered from Michael Shaver's skull could not be definitively linked to her pink handgun.
Let me just see if I'm summing this up correctly. The projectile that was in the body could not be linked up to the gun that you're sitting there on, correct?
All class characteristics were in agreement. The result of the individual comparison was inconclusive.
How many guns fit into that class?
Thousands of guns, if not tens of thousands.
With the state's case laid out, it's now the defense's turn, and they're about to call their star witness, Isabel Shaver, Lori and Michael's daughter, who was just 7 years old when he was last seen alive. She's now 15 and says she's prepared to tell the jury what really happened.
Isabel, I'm sorry. I have to do this. Do you know anything about the death of your father?
I do.
Have you given thought to taking the stand?
Still haven't decided. I would love to be able to speak my story.
Now, the defense also confirms with me that they say her daughter will take the stand.
Lori Shaver's defense is built on what she says really happened the day her husband died. And to lay out that story, they call to the stand the person they claim fired what they say was the first of 2 shots, her 15-year-old daughter, Isabel.
My name is Isabel Shaver.
Because she's a minor, Judge Carrie Rada does not allow Isabel's face to be shown during her testimony.
How old are you, Isabel?
I'm 15. I turned 16 this Sunday.
Would you explain your relationship to Lori Shaver?
Lori Shaver is my mother. Me and her are very close. She's like my best friend and a mom in one.
Has anybody pressured you to testify in this cause?
Absolutely not, no.
Do you know anything about the death of your father?
I do.
Do you know anything about how your father died?
I do.
Isabel tells jurors a stunning story that when she was just 7 years old, she witnessed a violent confrontation between her mother and her father, Michael, while the two were separated.
He pushed her onto the ground and he started kicking her in the stomach and in the back. And he was like saying that he was going to kill her at this time. I heard my mom screaming for help, obviously, and then he put his foot on the side of her face and pushed it into the ground. And I didn't hear her anymore. And so I went to my mom's room and I went at her end table and I grabbed her gun. And I shot him.
Isabel Shaver goes on to say that after she fired that shot, the man her mother was dating at the time, Jeremy, or Jay as they called him, came barreling into the house.
He took the gun from me, and then he shot him again. He told my mom to take us out of the house, take us to school. We are not to tell anybody. We can't call the cops. We can't say anything, or else he was going to do the same thing to me and my brother.
Isabel stated this house was so riddled with so much atmospheric tension that it just didn't seem different. It just was kind of the way they were living, but she didn't say anything to anybody about it.
Remember, Jeremy Townsend testified he had no involvement in Michael Shaver's murder or the disposal of the body. And when prosecutors cross-examine Isabel, they challenge her memory of this event.
You don't know what grade you were in when that happened, right?
I don't.
You don't know what month this happened in, correct?
Correct.
You don't know what year this happened in, correct?
Yes.
When you have a witness take the stand that says, I had a role in it, that's pretty incredible.
I think it was very clear that she was willing to do whatever she could to try to protect her mother and avoid her mom going to prison. It also was not consistent at all with any of the physical evidence. Her version of events involved 2 shots, and there was absolutely no question that there was only 1 shot in this case, and that was the one to the back of the head.
The defense would call Lori Shaver.
Next up, the woman at the center of the case, facing life in prison, takes the stand in her own defense.
Let's talk about the event that's landed you here.
I got up, got my coffee, and then that's when I noticed he was sitting out on the back patio. So I went out there, and we started talking, and it escalated. He was holding on to me. And at that point, I was just trying to convince him, like, okay, enough. We'll work it out. And he told me not this time. I was screaming as he's smashing my face into the porch.
What's the next thing you recall?
I more or less heard it. And then I think I seen her.
What's Isabel do?
She had fired a gunshot. The next thing I recall is seeing Jeremy, and hearing the gunshot at essentially the same time. He tells me to take the kids, get them out of the house, and he would take care of it. He insinuated that if we said anything, that he was not going to take the blame for this.
So what did you do?
I took the kids. I left.
Lori Shaver tells the jury that when she came home that day, Jeremy was gone, and so was Michael's body. According to Lori, she had no idea his remains were buried in her backyard.
Lori, the jurors are gonna ask themselves, why didn't you call the police?
Scared? I didn't know what to do.
When prosecutors finally get their chance to question Lori Shaver, they challenge her for more details about what they say is a story full of lies.
The biggest question I have for you is, when did your husband get killed?
The exact date I cannot recall. It was beginning of May 2016. It was not November.
Prosecutors say Lori wants jurors to believe that Michael was actually alive in May because that's a full 6 months after he was last seen by anyone.
When he left and moved out, he left his car, correct? He stopped going to work and lost his job because of it, correct?
I was not aware of that at that time.
November 2015, he just vanishes off the face of the earth. No one can account for him, correct?
I don't believe that that's true.
The day that he showed up in May of 2016, what vehicle did you use to get to your house that day? So he gets walked?
When you take what she said happened there that day and then just break it down, well, if that's true, where was Mike's car? If that's true, when his body is found, why is he dressed like he was in bed sleeping?
It's hard to make a story fit all of the different pieces of evidence if it's not true.
She made up this May 2016 story to distract. Jeremy Townsend talked to law enforcement 3 separate times. The evidence that has been presented is not that in May of 2016, Jeremy Townsend shot this man in the back of the head. It's that Lori killed him in November of 2015. Mike is buried in her backyard. She's the one that installs the fire pit and puts the cement slab over his body. She lied to friends, family, and law enforcement about his whereabouts for years. All the evidence points to her because she is guilty of murder in the 2nd degree. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Canuccio. Mr. Wicks?
Yes, sir. Has any single witness taken the stand and shown you one piece of evidence that established Lori Lee Shaver killed Michael Shaver? Zero. Zero.
And then it's left to the jury to decide which version of the story is the truth.
And you wondered in the end if the person who did this was ever going to be held responsible.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes.
Right now, closing arguments are done for the Lake County woman charged with her husband's murder.
She is facing 3 possible charges, second-degree murder being the biggest one, up to life in prison.
The biggest thing that I struggle with and that my heart breaks for is my kids. I don't want to see the look on their face when I have to tell them Mom's not coming home.
The jury deliberates for just under 4 hours before returning a verdict.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of second-degree murder.
The jury saw through all of her lies, manipulations, all of it. They didn't buy her story for a second. They didn't buy her daughter's story.
It was hard to hear Isabel saying those things about her dad, and I kind of feel really bad for her. Everybody that knows Mike knows he had a great relationship with both of his kids.
Your reaction, your thoughts as soon as that verdict came down?
Elation. We were very happy. This was a long time coming. It will not bring him back, but there will be justice for him finally.
It was celebration, sadness, several different emotions. She was part of our family, somebody that you feel that you love and you trust. So also a letdown in some ways, and to see somebody that you did care for at one time that did something so bad.
No, I did not get the answers. Why? Why wouldn't she have just let him go in a divorce? She could have carried on her life.
And she got married here.
Yep, right out there. We walked by here, walked through here, walked all the way out, and yep, right past, you know, a human being. That was just, it's so disturbing because, again, we've been out here. I've stood right where he was, and I didn't know.
It upsets you.
Yeah.
Michael, he was such a great, great person. He loved everybody with all that he had, and I think his spirit will finally be able to be at peace.
Lori Shaver was recently sentenced to life in prison for Michael Shaver's murder. She says she plans to appeal her conviction.
And for their part, Michael's family says they are hoping to establish visitation with the 2 children he shared with Lori. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
This is me, covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us.
I believe that me and my team may have just found some or part of Susan Powell's remains.
A search happening hundreds of feet down, deep inside of a mine in Utah's West Desert. This 12 years after her disappearance.
Found a shotgun. We started finding bones. There was a rib here, a collarbone there, a piece of vertebra. We found clothing.
When I pulled those pants out of the dirt, I thought, this is different.
I'm just grateful that people are still looking for Susan.
And the phone rang, and the voice on the other end said, "When was the last time you saw Susan?" And I instantly kind of felt like dread. What has happened?
28-year-old Susan Powell was last seen Sunday.
It has been 3 days. 4 days and counting.
Been missing for a week.
Josh had taken the children on a middle-of-the-night camping trip. It was freezing cold. None of this makes any sense.
He was like, "Yeah, the kids are here. No, Susan's not with me." And I was like, "Well, where is she?" You know, and he was like, "I don't know."
Who were you camping with?
My dad and my mom.
The children said, "Mommy was in the van but didn't come back with us." Pretty significant thing for a 4-year-old to tell a detective.
She even goes as far as to say, if I die, it may not be an accident.
Okay, go and ask one last question.
How am I going to find your wife when I get home?
Puyallup is a smaller town. It's located in an area that's kind of protected from wind and rain from the mountains around it.
It's a suburb of Seattle and Tacoma. It's homey, it's growing, low crime.
Lots of children who live there, lots of families.
How many people are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
A lot of really nice people interconnected through the church. It's kind of a very typical American community.
It is in Puyallup, Washington, where these two families and these two lives intersect. Josh Powell and Susan Cox.
Susan was one of 4 daughters born to Chuck and Judy Cox. She was just, a really typical girl and teenager. She liked to ride horses.
She's my partner in crime. Susan tried to be rebellious, but she had too good of a heart.
She was doing well in church and school, had friends, she loved choir.
She liked her hair done, her nails done, wear stylish clothes.
Susan had gone to cosmetology school. She liked to make other people feel good about themselves.
She got interested in boys as a teenager. She met Josh when she was 18 at a social event for young Mormons, and he was in his 20s, and she hadn't dated a lot.
In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if you are unmarried, you can attend a congregation that is for other unmarried individuals. And so Josh and Susan are both kind of circulating in this singles crowd.
There are these incredible home movies taken by Josh's dad, which were later released by police, that show the couple's blossoming relationship.
You'll cut that out of the tape, right?
When I first met Josh, guess I thought he was cute. He was very confident, and he thought he could get any girl he wanted.
Susan said that he was treating her really well, and he cared about her, and he promised he'd make her happy.
Josh Powell was a ambitious, strong-headed, kind of nerdy guy.
Just tall, dorky, his head's too big for his shoulders. He just looked awkward.
He's got a job, he's got his own place, and he's going to college, sounding pretty good.
He's going to go to school for business, so he's somebody who is bright when he applies himself.
They quickly fell in love. You see pictures of them, they looked to be completely smitten.
Josh and Susan's relationship goes from not knowing each other at all in October to being engaged by the end of December.
When she told me she was getting married, I wasn't that supportive because she barely knew him. And she just assured me that she's going to be really happy and that he wanted in life what she wanted in life.
Those videos also captured Josh and Susan's wedding and the home life they built together after.
Susan looked very pretty at her wedding. Very traditional, long white dress.
Yeah. So you put the ring in that box and opened it up, put it on.
She was very excited to show off Josh and start their lives together.
Let's see the ring. Let's see that ring. Hold your hand up, please.
It's a young person's love story that quickly becomes dark.
As the reception went on, Josh was ignoring her more and more, taking pictures and hanging out with his family, and then disappearing. I could tell she was getting more agitated.
Susan and Josh didn't have much money, and they found themselves in doing some odd jobs just to get by.
Susan actually was the financial provider. He kept going in and out of jobs and was never really settled with anything.
They moved to West Valley City in Utah because they were looking for a better life. They wanted to improve their economic situation. They buy a house.
Yeah.
As little boys, they were rambunctious and mischievous and ran around being typical happy little boys.
What are you watching? Cars.
And Susan loved them more than anything in the world.
Monday morning, December 7th, 2009. They didn't show up.
Debbie Caldwell. She is the daycare provider for Charlie and Braden Powell.
And by 7 o'clock, still no Susan. She had to be to work at 7. So that's not like Susan to be late and not call.
They don't show up that Monday morning as the snowstorm is coming in, and Debbie Caldwell becomes concerned.
Debbie tried to call Susan on the phone, tried to call Josh, couldn't reach anybody.
So I got in the van and I went up the street to her house. And as I pulled into her circle, there was no tire tracks in the driveway. So I pounded on the door and I got no answer.
So Debbie calls the emergency contact, which is Josh's sister Jennifer Graves and Josh's mom, Terry Powell.
The conclusion that we came to was carbon monoxide. They're probably dead in their beds. We ended up calling the police.
911, what is your emergency?
My son and his wife and their 2 children are not responding to calls, so they're not responding to people pounding on their door, and there's no tracks coming out of their driveway. We're worried that maybe gas has been left on or something like that.
And a couple of officers come out on a welfare check. They determined that the best course of action is to break a window to see whether or not the family is in there.
And they said, we'll go in if you'll pay for the window. And so we said, yeah, absolutely.
They'd find evidence that pointed to some unusual circumstances.
Why would that be here? That just wasn't a normal thing.
Good Monday morning, Utah. It is December 7th.
Snow and ice.
Lick Street, 2 to 4 feet of snow in this.
December 7th, 2009. I was viewing a bank robbery case, and the sergeant asked me to reach out to patrol. They were out on a missing family out on the west side of town.
Jennifer gave permission to the police to break a window and go into the house.
Most officers just kind of shimmied in. He was like, wait, what is up with the fans? There are 2 box fans pointed at the carpet in the living room, and we were all confused.
The officers cleared the entire residence and found nobody inside the home. And the Powell vehicle, which was a blue minivan, it wasn't parked in the garage.
The first thing I saw was Susan's purse was on a table, and I started pulling out things. You know, I found her keys, her wallet, and had her driver's license and her credit card.
You would expect that if she had left on her own, was intending to go someplace, she would have taken those items.
The kitchen, the master bedroom was fairly clean. I mean, the bed wasn't made. The bedroom for the children, the blankets were missing. But yeah, the house was pretty orderly. There was no sign of a disturbance, physical altercation inside of the residence.
Is this 16?
On the morning of December 7th, I was sitting in my family room, homeschooling my 3 kids, and the phone rang. The voice on the other end said, "Josh, Susan, and the boys are missing, and nobody's seen them since yesterday." It's just the most horrible, sickening feeling. I just thought, what has happened?
Susan's friends were afraid that they'd gone out on a jaunt because Josh liked to drive and take photographs and maybe had slipped off a cliff or they'd gotten stuck in the snow.
I made a few phone calls asking other people in the congregation if anyone had seen Susan. Giovanna goes, "I actually had dinner with them last night."
Susan asked Giovanna to come over to the house and help her with her knitting and crocheting. While she was there, Josh, who never did anything domestic at all, offered to make people dinner.
She was crocheting on her blanket. I was working on the yarn. Josh and the boys were in the kitchen cooking.
He called his father, Steve, to ask for a recipe for pancakes. Everything he did was a little bit different routine than anybody else would have. He made them one by one. He took a plate into Giovanna. He took a plate with different pancakes made, obviously, into Susan.
He and the boys ate at the table, and he brought our plates into us in the living rooms. I think that was probably very unusual.
I never ever witnessed them ever eating in the living room.
Shortly after that, Susan began to not feel well. Susan laid down, and Josh sort of suggested to Giovanna that it was time for her to leave.
He was going to take the boys sledding, and he and the boys actually drove out before I had finished putting on my seatbelt. That was the last time I saw anybody, around 5.
My brother finally called right away, asked about the kids, asked about Susan, and he was like, "Yeah, the kids are here. No, Susan's not with me." And I was like, "Well, where is she?" You know, and he was like, "I don't know. I have no idea. Like, she went to work."
Josh drives all the way south to a place called Point of the Mountain, and he places a phone call to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back, and I can't believe that somehow my brain missed the day. I thought today was Sunday. That was really, really stupid. All right, I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.
We sat there and waited. It was a long time. It was an hour, maybe more. Josh finally showed up at the house.
Josh had taken the children on a middle of the night camping trip. It was freezing cold. None of this makes any sense, except to him, he does things spontaneously without any plan. And he took the kids. He said that he left Susan in the house. She was sleeping.
We really wanted to talk with Josh, and we wanted to record it. We had Josh follow us to the substation. He was adamant about taking the boys with him.
When's the last time you seen her?
Probably about midnight of last night.
Where at?
We're finishing up a movie.
What movie did you just watch?
Mama. Here you go, buddy.
Josh is very evasive, and he uses the kids who are in the room to distract away.
He wasn't forthcoming with answers or information, so it was very frustrating.
And where did you drive to?
Well, I started heading south through Tooele, turned onto the Pony Express.
How far down the Pony Express did you go?
Not very far. Maybe 20 miles, I don't know. So what did you do once you got there? Hooked up a heater and had a fire for the boys.
Josh said they drove to Simpson Springs and had s'mores over a campfire. It's not really very clear exactly what happened that evening and the next morning.
We asked him if we could search his minivan, and he agreed. The minivan was full of camping supplies, like there was a tarp, a generator, shovel, graham crackers.
During that search of the minivan, where they find Susan's phone hidden in the center console. It's this pink cell phone, clearly not Josh's.
And he was kind of like deer in headlights. He just kind of looked at us.
In no way did it make any sense. Susan's cell phone is in the van with him. Where the heck was Susan?
Detectives talked to Josh and Susan's son, Charlie.
There was one particular statement that raised a lot of eyebrows.
Who were you camping with? My dad and my mom and my little brother. Dad, your mom, and your brother?
Down the street from the Powells, Kiersey Hillowell sat in a downstairs playroom, wondering, where is Susan? Then came the news. It made her heart beat faster. Her stomach turned in somersaults.
I just lost it. 9 o'clock that night, Jennifer told me that Josh and the boys are home, and I'm like, well, where's Susan? And she said, we don't know.
As soon as I heard that he was back and Susan was not with them, I instantly said to myself, what has he done?
It became like this game of telephone, where people were passing along these little bits of information, and suddenly a larger story was coming together.
He said he was out driving around and gone out camping with the boys. And I'm like, are you a crazy man? It was cold.
That is 100% Josh. He did that kind of stuff all the time.
But Susan would have never allowed him to ever take the boys out in the winter to the desert in the middle of the night. Never. I never believed his story at all.
And finally, we're like, you've got to go to your interview with the police.
All right, no problem. Have a seat. Let me go grab my notebook and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay. Josh Powell kind of has a uniform of sorts. It's typically a t-shirt, it's a leather jacket, it's denim pants, and it's dingy white shoes. When Josh goes in to talk to the police, in the tape, you see him initially acting very emotional.
I don't know. I didn't even think it was that. It didn't even sink in yesterday.
He's crying. His voice is shaking. He's just trying to hold it together. But as Detective Maxwell continues to push Josh about what's going on, Josh's demeanor changes.
I can't remember what we were doing.
Okay. So you don't remember what you guys did from 6 o'clock till you went to bed on Saturday night?
I just don't remember what activity we were doing.
Josh is not a participant at all in talking about his missing wife.
Shows no urgency in getting out to go look for her.
During the day, but...
Have you checked any places where she could be?
I haven't had much of a chance to do any of that yet.
He asks police no questions about what they're doing to find her.
Jack, what places should we go check to see if we can find her?
Beauty supply? I don't think she would be there, but she likes them.
And he offers no suggestions, really, about where they might look.
Okay, let me ask you this before you go.
Go ahead and ask one last question.
How am I going to find your wife without your help?
While I'm interviewing him, another colleague conducted a child forensic interview.
Right there. Yeah. Good job. It's got nice lights, huh? Pretty.
We went to the Children's Justice Center, and they were able to interview Charlie. Braden really wouldn't talk to them.
Okay. Well, what did you do last night? Go camping. You went camping? Who were you camping with? My dad and my mom and my little brother.
The children said, Mommy was in the van but didn't come back with us. A pretty significant thing for a 4-year-old to tell a detective.
We got in the airplane, and the airplane went to Dinosaur National Park. Oh. You went to an airplane yesterday?
Charlie's interview is perplexing because he says a lot of things that don't make much sense.
Okay, so Charlie, when you guys came home from camping, who came home with you? My dad. And? And my mom stayed at Dinosaur National Park. My mom stayed where a crystal park.
There was one particular statement that raised a lot of eyebrows. Mommy is with the crystals. And how some people interpreted that was that the boys had been with their mom and she was not alive.
Your children are telling our detectives that Mom went with you guys last night and that she didn't come back.
She did not go with us. They know that she didn't go with us.
So your kids lie then? Do your kids lie?
Sometimes they do.
With children, they're going to go from threads of truth and reality to fantasy. And maybe things that happened long before Mom disappeared, they're still in his memory and in his mind sort of fuses together.
She was not with us. I didn't leave her at the Pony Express. I didn't just take her out and drop her off or even do anything. I do want the lawyer, because at this point, I definitely want a lawyer.
Could have I went and booked him into jail? Yeah, I could have. But we wanted to find Susan, so we were putting a GPS tracker on his van. We want him to be out and about and see where he goes.
Instead of picking up his van, he went to the airport. He rented a Ford Focus.
And he vanishes in that rental car for 18 hours. And when he returns that rental car, it has an additional 807 miles on the odometer. To this day, we don't know where Josh went.
Very quickly, the police realized that Josh was lying to them, that he was evasive, and he was not acting like a bereaved husband.
When detectives spoke with Susan's friends, there was a very different picture of this marriage.
She went to see a divorce lawyer, and he told her to make a videotape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
In a developing story, the search continues this morning
for a missing wife and mother in West Valley City.
We had been hearing some buzz in the community that there was a woman who was missing.
28-year-old Susan Powell was last seen
Sunday night, a family dinner with other friends.
It has been 3 days.
4 days and counting.
Been missing for a week.
Utah gets missing persons cases almost every day, so this didn't really stand out as anything out of the normal.
ABC4's Brian Carlson is live at the West Valley Police Station tonight.
Until you start to hear some of the details unravel.
We've learned the search warrants for the Powell's home have now been sealed off.
It's strange that he came home with the kids and not her.
West Valley City Police calling this one a puzzler.
Call it suspicious.
Not even a clue.
If you see her or know anything, please contact the West Valley Police Department.
Her friends and family were just starting to ask questions. They were out there with flyers, just trying to find out where she might be.
Volunteers fanned out, handing out flyers of Susan Powell.
Josh, after Susan went missing, he went from the guy who was talking about everything and knew everything to somebody who said nothing, knew nothing.
And a husband who says he does not know what has happened to her.
We know the answers are out there, and we need those who know where she is and what happened to come forward.
I held a candlelight vigil a few days into her disappearance, And Josh came to that late.
After the candlelight vigil was over, Josh Powell did show up here in the park with his 2 children, but he quickly left without saying anything.
Charlie had come up to me and he was telling me, "Debbie, my hands are cold, my hands are cold." And Josh scooped Charlie up and kind of pulled him away like this.
And reporters were trying to chase him through the snow and he was walking away from them.
You were camping with the boys?
I have to go get my boys.
There was no point at which Josh ever seemed to even be concerned that Susan was missing. If he wanted to help on the website, he should have detailed a timeline. He never participated in any of the massive, massive efforts that myself and relatives and friends launched to put out flyers in malls and parking lots.
He didn't seem like he was engaged at all in what was going on. It seemed like his mind was somewhere else. He spoke very briefly with local media.
I've been trying to figure out what I can do so I don't sit idle. I'm dealing with this repeatedly.
People were upset that he didn't seem upset that she was missing. And so people thought that's because he's guilty.
Josh, will you give us a comment today?
Pointing the fingers at Joshua, I don't want to do that.
It seemed like initially Josh and Susan were a pretty conservative couple, loving family, couple of kids. We learned that there was a lot of distress, a lot of turmoil in their marriage.
He controlled the money, even though she was the breadwinner.
Josh is very willing to spend money building himself a fancy computer. Susan doesn't get that privilege.
There's my new printer.
With the drawers underneath, shelving.
It's sad to look at that family and know now what was actually going on.
Over Susan.
She said one time we were having a screaming fight and I shoved him, pushed me back, and he goes, "If you ever do that again, I'm gonna hit you." But she said he never did.
Susan's now starting to think about, I've got to get out of this marriage.
She went to see a divorce lawyer one time for a free consultation at my advice, and he told her to make a videotape of everything in your house.
This is me, July 29th, 2008, covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented. And here is our safe. Got all sorts of files, financial information, speakers, 5.1 surround sound. Broke this and threw all my DVDs and made a mess. There's a hole in that wall. Beautiful diamond necklace my mom bought. Jade, that's a family heirloom. Not worth thousands of dollars, but I have assets. Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after, as much as that's possible.
After she would email me a lot and just say it, I want to do everything in my power to save my marriage before I walk away.
Josh had warned her, if you divorce me, you'll never see the children. So she stayed.
Police ended up discovering the safety deposit box that Susan kept secretly from Josh at the bank where she worked. In it, they found a DVD, some savings bonds, and there was a makeshift will and testament.
The last will and testament, handwritten on one piece of paper, both sides, top to bottom, side to side. There was no room to write another word.
She wrote about how bad the marriage had become. She talked about $1 million life insurance policy that Josh had taken out on her. And she told her boys she would never leave them.
She even goes as far as to say, if I die, it may not be an accident.
That is our biggest piece of evidence. It's her last words. There was no doubt that this document was authored by Susan.
The biggest mystery of this case is why didn't police arrest Josh Powell?
I was frustrated because they hadn't arrested him. I felt they had plenty of evidence to arrest him.
Police have officially named Joshua Powell a person of interest in the disappearance of his wife, Susan.
The West Valley City Police Department took a lot of heat for not throwing the handcuffs on Josh.
There's a pile of circumstantial evidence. Is there enough there to arrest him and book him into jail and hold him accountable? Absolutely there is. Could we? No. The district attorney's office would not file any charges. They were very specific and told us that we needed to wait 12 months with no body.
ABC News reached out to the DA at the time, who declined to respond to this claim and refused to comment on the case.
Within days of Susan's disappearance, he had closed their bank accounts, cashed out her retirement fund, took the boys to Puyallup.
People we talked to say they can't believe that Joshua Powell has emptied the house and left what is ground zero in the disappearance of his wife. They say it only casts more doubt on a man they're having an increasingly difficult time believing.
I suddenly had this thought, I should get Josh to confess.
Jennifer volunteered with the police to wear a wire.
What is it?
I know what I've done, and I haven't done anything.
Then where is Susan?
For right now, you just endure and take each day as you can.
When Josh told police he took the boys camping in the middle of the night in Utah's West Desert, police started their search there.
Detectives are scouring rocky hillsides and abandoned mine tunnels for any signs of Susan Powell.
But police for months and months would search these mines, taking K-9 teams.
And West Valley police detectives say they plan to survey as many as possible.
The most intense part of this search is happening right at the bottom of this hill.
Investigators are swarming the high desert.
Josh told somebody that the best place to dispose of a body would be in a mine.
This is one of those abandoned mine shafts in which detectives went through.
Nobody'd ever find him.
It's like finding a needle in the haystack. A lot of questions still unanswered at this point.
There's a big part of you missing, and you want to know the truth.
But the family won't give up hope. There is still purple ribbons at their home. There is still stickers on car windows.
Josh decides that he's going to take the boys up to his dad's house in Washington to try to get away from the media circus.
You have anything to say?
Josh, will you give us a comment today?
You're a person of interest, Josh.
Josh's dad, Steve Powell, he takes control. He shields Josh from the media and becomes his most ardent defender.
I call it Fort Powell because it became a fortress.
They had the windows, blinds drawn. They kept the house dark inside. When the media would knock, they'd open a crack and say no. They weren't talking to anybody.
Hi, I'm trying to find Josh Powell.
They were just their own little country.
Josh isolates himself from the world. He's not talking to police, he's not talking to media, he's certainly not searching for his missing wife.
I suddenly had this thought, I should try and get Josh to confess.
Even Josh's sister, Jennifer Graves, doesn't believe him. So she goes to police and she volunteers to wear a wire and go inside her dad's house.
They were just about to have dinner and we went in and the boys were so excited to see us.
My birthday! It is! It's your birthday, Charlie!
I didn't know exactly how to force this confrontation with Josh.
I've been hearing rumors that you'll probably be arrested soon.
Well, I don't know.
Suddenly, I just shoved Josh into the bathroom. And at that point, I was like, drop all pretense. Just tell me where her body is.
We tried to cover it up. Where is Susan?
Jennifer did a phenomenal job.
I just don't believe it anymore. I can see it in your eyes. There's something there.
You're wrong. Well, like I say,
I think you just need to confess now and get it over with.
Don't be ridiculous. I know what I've done, and I haven't done anything.
You told me.
I've already told you the truth. Every fact. I'm not going to violate my attorney's direction.
He still wouldn't budge. He still would not give me anything. I was so frustrated.
Eventually, Steve kicked Jennifer out of the residence, calling her derogatory names.
You are a bitch, is what you are. You talked about your brother and my son that went.
I regret not getting the confession, but I don't regret going.
This is Good Morning America.
And joining us now, Susan's mother and father, Judy.
Susan's parents, from the moment she was missing, they were very involved with the press.
Suspect your son-in-law.
Your grandchildren, what they saw.
But very quickly, the tone changed.
We made a conscious decision. The politeness wasn't working, so we basically called him out. Josh is a desperate person. He has no valid explanation for where he was.
Chuck Cox and the family, they're putting the purple ribbons, they got the billboard outside the neighborhood.
All these things, I'm sure, are driving him crazy, but for 18 months he sits in isolation and doesn't talk to anybody about it.
To try to get Josh to talk, we put together the honk and wave.
What in the world is a honk and wave?
Thank you!
And he said, you make these, you're gonna get these huge signs, and you stand on the really busy corners and get people to honk and wave to show their support.
Thank you!
It can cause anxiety and disruption in your suspect's mind. People start to do things as the stress tends to build.
They picked a busy street near a store that they knew Steve and Josh shopped at, and Chuck and Judy and others were out there with signs and everything. And there were television cameras there.
We're not gonna stop looking for her no matter how long it takes.
They had these shirts with Susan's face. I think it said, "Have you seen me?" And they had these big posters, and they were waving and balloons and handing out flyers to cars as they went by.
Steve pulled by, and the next thing I know, he's stomping over towards me. You can't do this.
This is a store that I shop at. The only places where they've passed out flyers about Susan, the only place where they've put up billboards, the only place where they've duct taped flyers to light posts.
How is you coming here helping to find Susan?
It isn't helping to find Susan. How is your standing at our neighborhood market helping to find Susan, Chuck?
An extraordinary, personal, and very public confrontation that erupted in the middle of the search for Susan Powell. Several family members were clashing in front of the cameras.
Been all over the media. If somebody has seen her, then they can report to the police.
And you're only going to do this. Which other stores are you doing this at, Chuck?
It was ugly. It was weird. It was really contentious. I was waiting for the cops to come and haul one of them away.
Since you come out against my family.
Then Josh showed up midway into this confrontation on the street corner, and he had the boys in the van with him.
Chuck Cox uses my sons as pawns in the media to drive whatever message he is trying to drive.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah, that's all right.
I get a call from Josh. We were telling Josh, okay, are you going to do this interview or not? And he finally said yes.
So I just want to go back there and talk just real quick, and I just want to
You still love her?
Yeah.
He seemed very distant when I spoke to him. He had a hollow look and a stare that I wondered, is he trying to intimidate me? Josh, did you kill your wife? Then there was Steven wanting to be interviewed, and he ends up revealing the biggest bombshell.
There were just sexual things going on between us.
This is your daughter-in-law.
We were watching this on TV, and our jaws just dropped.
Do you see the birdie?
Where?
Don't crawl in the dirt, boys.
Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after as much as that's possible.
When she went missing in 2009, it shocked everybody, especially since her story was so bizarre.
10 years on, we're still thinking about her, and we're still thinking about, we want closure on what happened to her.
Searching for the final resting place of Susan Cox Powell.
I believe that me and my team may have just found some of Susan Powell's remains. With every bucket load that we pulled out after that, we'd find a piece of vertebrae or a piece of rib.
Holy cow, this could have been where a body, ultimately was.
And I was like, where is she? And he was like, I don't know.
You have anything to say?
Josh, will you give us a comment
You're
today?
a person of interest, Josh.
We can't talk about Susan or camping. I always keep things as secret.
During that interview, it's very clear that Charlie has been coached.
He looked more and more like a psychopath. He was running out of places to hide.
slams the door in her face, and locks it.
This is a story you can't write in a Hollywood script. No one would have thought in a million years that's how the story would have ended.
Susan Powell was a young, beautiful mother of 2 adorable children. She just one night vanished.
Detectives have named Josh Powell a person of interest in the case.
He did some local news, some ambush-style interviews where they would ask him something on the fly. And
You were camping with the boys?
I have to go get my boys.
But he never really sat down and talked about what happened. And I'll never forget the first time that I met him. I shook his hand and a chill just like raced up through my spine. I just shook the hand of a killer. Are we rolling? Why talk now?
Oh, man. I wanted to come out and say something. People who know me know that I'm a good dad. I was a good husband. I provided for them. Susan also contributed.
Nothing he told me during that interview convinced me that he was not part of what happened to her and why she disappeared. I know that you've told police that you were camping. You brought your 2-year-old and your 4-year-old camping. Is that where you were?
I'm not going to talk about anything that my attorney has specifically told me not to.
Okay. Why not just answer where you were when she disappeared?
Josh, can I suggest something?
His father was there, and his father really wanted to be interviewed, which was odd. And I had really no desire to interview Stephen Powell. At that time, 0. And I just thought, this is such a waste of time. This is pointless. You think she ran away with another man?
It was another man.
I don't think Josh was in the room for that part of the interview. And before you know it, he ends up revealing the biggest bombshell out of all of the interviews that I had done in out of the whole case. What makes you think that she would leave her kids, her 2 young sons, and run away with another man?
With another man. Susan was very, very sexual with me. She was very flirtatious. I mean, she did it. I did. I mean, we interacted in a lot of sexual ways because Susan enjoys doing that.
But this is...
I enjoy doing that.
Why are you telling everyone that? That's not to your benefit, but somehow in my dad's own twisted mind, he thought that that was the greatest strategy to keep the dogs off Josh or something. I don't know.
One day we were at an animal park. I was holding Braden in my arms, and I had my hands like this. The part I remember is that Susan came over to take him from me, and instead of just reaching out and grabbing him, she pressed her breasts against my hands, tightly. And she wouldn't let my hands out. And that's nice. It was a cold day, so it was a nice, warm feeling.
Give me a break. But he loved to talk about it.
Josh and Susan, early in their marriage, move in to Steve Powell's home.
Susan had often referred to her father-in-law as creepy, but she, I don't think, had any idea how creepy the man truly was.
No, I'll do this.
And during this period of time, Steve Powell is constantly filming Susan. This is a man who is collecting video for his own perverse gratification. Because Steve Powell is a voyeur.
He wrote a number of songs about Susan.
Stephen Powell even recorded them and posted them on his website.
I can love you in a secret way. I can love you each and every day.
He had a pseudonym he used, Steve Chantre.
While Josh and Susan were living with my dad, there was a point where she was alone in the car with my dad for a short time while Josh was in the house, and my dad actually hit on her.
He has put his camera in the bag on the center console and left it recording. And so the audio of this conversation is captured.
I've really fallen in love with you. You know, for the last year and a half, you're about the only thing I can think about. And just, for example, when we were sitting on the couch, it just felt like you were very, you know, I mean, I was extremely aroused, and I think you were somewhat aroused, at least I thought.
I don't know where you're going with this.
That audio was an opportunity to hear Susan in her own voice, telling Steve in no uncertain terms she was not interested.
I'm kind of meaning to talk to you about this, because I realized the last time I came over and that my own father doesn't kiss me and you kiss me, and I didn't like that.
She was extremely upset about that and disturbed, but even more disturbed when Josh just said that that's his dad.
I mean, he was obsessed with Susan. He was absolutely obsessed, and he wanted to talk about it. To me, this was the headline. And it also put a target on Stephen's back. And maybe he had something to do with this. The focus was less on Josh, and it shifted straight to Josh's father because it was so creepy. That was my big takeaway.
Police raided the home of her husband and father-in-law, seizing several computers and sealed boxes after those disturbing allegations made by both of them right here on GMA yesterday.
Susan Powell disappeared from her home near Salt Lake City on December 6, 2009. Since then, no word, nothing.
The Powells, they had this entire campaign of their own, and it was to make Susan look bad. It was to make her look like she was promiscuous, like she was looking to leave the marriage and abandon her children.
Susan Cox kept a diary, a secret diary.
Let's stay focused on the journals, okay? Because I think that's very interesting.
I believe that Susan had a liaison with somebody who disappeared the same week she did. She was very open sexually, and when I read her journals, it's clear that most of the relationships she got into with males were ones that she initiated.
Basically, Josh and Stephen, on their own stupidity, were telling, hey, this is, you know, the Holy Grail. This is telling us where Susan is. This is telling us how Susan acted. So that gave us the nexus through the judicial system to get into the house.
When Josh moved in with his father shortly after his wife's disappearance, he took some things from his Utah home, including Susan's journals.
Susan Powell's diaries have taken center stage. According to the search warrant left at the Powell's home, police came looking for 7 very specific diaries, all written by Susan. Diaries that her husband insists will help explain her disappearance.
They went through everything in the house, including all of Steve's, files, journals, computers.
They also find Steve Powell's collection of voyeur videos. Steve Powell is doing things like sliding mirrors under the bathroom door, attempting to get images of Susan while she's undressed.
I love putting her underwear against my face, just smelling her scent.
Steve would narrate his videos to himself as he's shooting video of her dirty underwear.
Stephen Powell would save things of Susan that she'd throw away in a bathroom garbage. Things like cotton swabs, wax strips, tampons. He would mark each one of them, like for specific storage.
In his walk-in closet, there was a filing cabinet that was locked. And once we got into that, that was kind of like the unwanted treasure that we found.
Police say inside Powell's bedroom, they found thousands of images of mostly young girls, many naked, being videotaped without their knowledge. Prosecutors say 2 former neighbors, sisters just 7 and 12, were repeatedly videotaped while bathing. Police said Powell shot from his bedroom window into the neighbor's bathroom window using a telephoto lens.
They've looked at Steve Powell, the suspect in Susan's disappearance, and ruled him out, but it's obviously of great concern to detectives as they're scouring through all the material they take out of Steve Powell's home when they see underage neighbor girls undressed on Steve Powell's tapes.
Powell entered a plea of not guilty to 14 counts of voyeurism and 1 count of child pornography.
Stephen Powell was eventually convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison for possession of child pornography.
Because of all the things that the police encountered in the search of the Stephen Powell home, it became apparent eventually these boys were at imminent risk of harm.
The best part that came out of the search warrant with Steve's house was Child Family Services of Washington stepped in and shared with us that they would take custody of the children.
The boys, ages 4 and 6, were taken last night by the state, and now Susan's father is fighting to keep them with him.
They were going to be placed, relative placement with us, so we were essentially foster parents. Josh didn't want them with us.
My sons are safe with me. They're safe in my home. They're safe with my family.
I think Josh's main fear probably was that once Charlie started talking to their grandparents, the story would get out.
They were saying things like, our mommy went with us on the trip but didn't come back. We can only see our mom again if we go camping again.
Braden drew the picture of a minivan with stick people inside, and who's this? Oh, that's me. Who's that? That's Charlie. Who's that? That's Daddy. And he said, and he volunteered, Mommy's in the trunk.
We wanted to interview them.
Will you sit right there?
So I wrote the search warrant for that.
Charlie, has anybody talked to you about your mom? No? I not know where she is. She got lost somewhere.
During that interview, it's very clear that Charlie has been coached. His answers are extremely evasive.
We can't talk about Susan or camping. I always keep things as secrets.
The only thing we got out of that time was that at one point he said that she went camping, but she didn't come home with them. And then he kind of clammed up after that.
I didn't want to talk to you on this long. I mean it on this many minutes. Now I'm done.
While the Coxes were fighting for custody of the kids and had temporary custody of the boys, they were still essentially wards of the state. Washington State had control over these children, and the Coxes were glorified foster care. So the boys are living with Grandma and Grandpa, and Josh is getting supervised visitation with the boys.
The visitation is at first understood to be taking place at a secure third-party facility, but in short order, Josh takes steps to rent his own house, and he begins pushing the social workers, asking them if they can move visitation to this new house that he's rented, because it's not Steve Powell's house. It shouldn't have the same concerns.
I think the boys were ones that originally told me, hey, we got to go to Daddy's house or something, and I went, oh, really? I was concerned about that.
They were very excited. They were thrilled about the new house, and they were thrilled about the yard at the new house.
I am in their best interest as their father, that I should be raising them.
Through December into early January, he was confident that his reunification motion was going to be granted.
Who has custody of your kids?
Well, that was doomsday for Josh Powell.
This is a story you can't write in a Hollywood script. No one would have thought in a million years that's how this story would have ended.
Josh, is there anything you'd care to say on your way in?
When Josh was fighting for custody of Charlie and Braden, it wasn't about being a father. It was about beating the Coxes.
The kids seemed like typical kids to a certain extent, but they were undergoing a lot of stress.
I think Josh went into that hearing on February 1st thinking he was going to get his kids back.
I was pretty positive that Josh was the one that killed Susan. I wanted to keep those boys out of that home as long as possible. I was going to West Valley going, hey, guys, we need something.
Pierce County authorities and investigators in Utah shared the common goal of protecting the boys. So the West Valley Police in Utah passed along previously unreleased evidence recovered from the Powell's home.
When I pushed West Valley and they sent us the disc with the cartoon, incestuous images.
The West Valley City Police Department in Utah had found images on a computer taken out of the house in Sarah Circle way back in December of 2009 that were of great concern. They were characters from popular Nickelodeon shows engaged in sexual acts of incest.
The evidence was allegedly taken from Josh Powell's Utah home by investigators.
They raised very serious questions about Josh's ability to be a safe parent for the boys.
He denies ever looking at any kiddie porn. He denies any knowledge about any of these images that had purportedly been taken off of his computers. Illegal images? No. I asked Mr. Long, he saw nothing on there that he believed would be in violation of the law. Bad taste? I'll give you that from what he was describing to me.
And that's when the judge ruled that the boys would stay with the Coxes longer.
The images are enough that Judge Catherine Nelson is ordering Josh Powell to now undergo a psychosexual evaluation.
This is an exam where they measure aberrant arousal, so you can't lie. Because physically the arousal will show if you're into things that might be illegal.
He had to take psychosexual evaluation, which is one thing that I know he wouldn't pass, but it included a polygraph.
And that means that Josh is going to have to do what he's avoided doing from the very first days after Susan disappeared, which is take a lie detector test.
He'd been able to get away with murder, so to speak, for a long time. But a polygraph, I think he was really afraid of. He didn't want to answer all these questions about Susan and how she went missing.
He truly had gone down in flames from being pretty sure that he was going to get his kids back.
Are you disappointed the kids are going to be coming home with you?
I think the arrow was taken out of him. He looked bad. You just saw his welfare diminish.
He looked more and more like a psychopath. He was running out of places to hide, and he was running out of options, and it was tearing him down as a person.
The custody hearing between Chuck and Josh essentially was put on pause. That was on February 1st. We know then that Josh spent the next 4 days preparing.
We know that he transferred some of his finances.
He gathered up some of the boys' things and toys, took them to Salvation Army and Goodwill. He bought 5-gallon gas cans and went and filled them with gas.
I said, look, I am afraid Josh is backed into a corner with the psychosexual and the polygraph. He knows there's no way he's going to beat those.
So the morning of Sunday, February 5th, Chuck had gone to church early.
I knew they were going for their visit, and they were making it clear to my wife and myself, we don't want to see him today. No, we don't want to go.
I picked up the boys. They were waiting with their grandmother, and I expected to return the boys in about 4.5 hours.
And things just go very wrong.
The Pierce County Sheriff believes what has happened is nothing short of pure evil.
This is a story you can't write in a Hollywood script. No one would have thought in a million years that's how this story would have ended. When you talk about a tragedy, this is it.
The morning of Sunday, February 5th, Elizabeth Griffin Hall arrived at the rental house, parked out front, and as children do, Charlie and Braden got out of their car seats.
They rushed to the front door, which is what they always did. I was 1 or 2 steps in back of them. The kids just rushed in. I saw Josh for just 1 second. His eyes caught mine, and he had a look in his eyes.
She looks him straight in the face. He slams the door in her face and locks it.
I knocked and I knocked and I rang the doorbell and I started yelling at it, "Josh, let me in." And I heard him say, "Charlie, I've got a big surprise for you."
And immediately she smelled gasoline, and she knew it was an emergency situation.
I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. I think I need help right away. He looked right at me and closed the door.
All right, we'll have somebody look for you there.
Okay, how long will it be?
I don't know, ma'am. They have to respond to emergency, life-threatening situations first. The first available deputy.
Well, this could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday, and he didn't get his kids back. And this is really, I'm afraid for their lives.
Okay, has he threatened the lives of the children previously?
I have no idea.
All right, we'll have the first available deputy contact you.
February 5th, 2012, Super Bowl Sunday.
I went to church. I came home, Super Bowl Sunday.
I remember watching the Super Bowl that day and seeing the reports come in.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John DeCepolo. We are interrupting your programming for some breaking news.
And I got a call from my neighbor, and he said, change the channel.
I was actually in Indianapolis. The Patriots were playing the Giants at the Super Bowl.
Patriots lead the Giants 10-9 at halftime.
And I was there with my family. And it was halftime, and Madonna was about to take center stage.
As Madonna takes the stage to perform Vogue, Abby's in the stadium concourse trying to absorb the text she just received.
I get a text, pops up on my phone.
There has been a fatal explosion at the home of Josh Powell.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I thought, I'm going to get help from the neighbors. They'll be able to help me get the boys out. So I went screaming to the neighbors and said, there's 2 children in there. There's 2 children in there.
I said, oh my God. And I thought like natural gas or something. And they said they found 3 bodies.
There's a fire, the house exploded, and we're hearing that Josh and Charlie and Braden were inside.
This can't be, this can't be.
And I thought, no, that can't be real. I would have heard something.
And I called Susan's father. I said, Chuck, is it true?
Chuck, is it true? Is it true? He said, yes. And I didn't even say goodbye. I just hung up the phone and started crying.
And I was looking at a house with steam still coming out of it and fires, and he went and talked to his sergeant or whatever. He said, yeah, they're there, and they're dead.
Honestly, I wasn't surprised. And the actions that he made after she went missing, I never underestimated him.
And then to find out the details, it just breaks your heart.
The Pierce County medical examiner says both boys had chopping wounds on their heads and necks, but that's not what killed them. The cause of death for all 3 was carbon monoxide poisoning.
We believe he bought 2 5-gallons worth of gas, and one was used in the room where the boys were killed, where we found the hatchet, the boys, and one of the gas cans.
And then after he had incapacitated them, he arranged them on the floor next to each other and poured gasoline on and around them and around the house. And then he sat on a gas can and lit a match. And they were still alive when the fire started, and they died of smoke inhalation. And there was also gasoline in their lungs.
Police say there's clear evidence Josh planned out this house explosion and meant to kill himself and his children.
The morning of the 5th, he sent a couple of text messages and voicemails to people, essentially saying goodbye. His sister Alina found one when it was too late to intervene after the explosion.
What did he say? I think he said, "Hello, this is Josh."
I am not able to live without my son, and I'm not able to go on anymore. I'm sorry to everyone I've hurt. Goodbye.
When you heard the audio recording, what did you think? What did you make of that? I thought he had lost all hope.
To find out that, you know, he used the axe first, and to find out that he said to them, you know, I have a surprise for you. Any little bit of doubt that anyone could have possibly had that Josh killed Susan had to have gone out the window. The fact that he could have done that to his kids.
This wasn't tragic. This was deeply wrong. This was evil. You do not kill little kids.
Police are convinced the explosion and fire that destroyed Josh Powell's home is a murder-suicide.
I don't know anything else I could have done. And they're still dead. My daughter's still missing, and now the children are dead. I had them safe. They were in my care. They were gone.
I was frustrated with the Child Protective Service Agency. Why would they put this single woman in charge of these boys and send her into the lion's den?
They had the right to grow up.
The Cox family is determined to hold the state accountable and make them pay for the deaths of their grandchildren.
You'll cut that out of the tape, right?
Hey, Braden. Hold still. That's the saddest part, is you look at photos of Josh and Susan, Charlie and Braden, and you think about what could have been. Those boys deserve to grow up, and they never got the chance.
We've been robbed of 3 precious lives, and it's just unthinkable that the same person did it.
Why take the kids? Why? It makes absolutely no sense.
My worst nightmare had just happened. But I went from praying that somehow Susan was alive to praying now that she was dead so that she could greet her boys in heaven.
Outside the fenced-off crime scene, strangers visit the memorial that has risen. Flowers, balloons, and stuffed animals offered in memory of Charlie and Braden Powell.
Why would he go through so much to get custody of the boys, only to murder them?
Come here, Charlie.
Here we go, Charlie. Hey, buddy.
Well, one of the possibilities is he destroyed the evidence. Those boys were starting to talk. And by destroying the evidence, basically he committed murder on his 2 boys.
It shows how much of a monster he really was. And it shows how many people dropped the ball in this case.
I was frustrated with the Child Protective Service Agency. Why would they put this single woman in charge of these boys and send her into the lion's den? It made no sense to me.
I wanted to get the kids no matter what. I wanted to get the kids. If I could have gotten through the door, I would have.
She did what she could. She did everything right. There's no blame on her at all. Anybody puts any blame on her, it's misdirected.
The Coxes have filed a lawsuit against the state of Washington on behalf of Braden and Charlie. It's a wrongful death lawsuit, and their position is that the state of Washington put Josh's parental rights before the welfare of these boys.
The Cox family lawsuit didn't include Elizabeth Griffin Hall or any other individuals as defendants.
The fact is, she was not the one that made the decision for this to be in the home. So to a certain extent, she's lucky she's alive. And she's, I think, a victim in a lot of ways, too.
They filed this lawsuit $35 million for Braden, $50 million for Charlie. $5 million for each minute that these boys suffered at the hands of their father before they were ultimately blown up in Josh's rental house.
Please be seated. Good morning, everybody.
You have a civil case against the state that started in February, was disrupted because of COVID-19.
Please now give your attention to Mr. Buck as he presents the plaintiff's final argument.
It is out of the state's failure to live up to their own primary directive of assuring the safety of the children that this tragedy was born. What was the place that had the least protection? Josh Powell's home. What about the level of risk? Then the state learned of the boy's statements. It learned of this incest images. It learned that he was going to have to undergo a psychosexual evaluation, a polygraph. If the state had followed its policies, its guidelines, common sense, investigated, had visitations where it was supposed to have them, none of this would have happened. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this will be the only and final time that you hear from the state in this matter. The state took this very serious. They did their job, they followed their policies. Yes, the fact that Susan Powell was missing was known, but after more than 2 years after her disappearance, still no arrest, no charges against Josh Powell. It actually takes facts and proof to remove a child from their parent, to keep them out of the home. The guides on visitation shows the number one preferred location is at a parent's home. That's why transition to a home occurs. The goal in these type of cases is always family reunification. I'm going to submit to you that Mr. Powell is the sole cause of the murder of his sons. It was not due to any negligence by the state of Washington. It was Mr. Powell who did this.
The truth of the fact of the matter is, they're the only ones who could have protected the children at that point. They're the ones with responsibility.
Has the jury reached a verdict, ma'am?
All please rise.
Please be seated.
Court is reconvened.
Has the jury reached a verdict, ma'am?
If it pleases the court, we have.
Was the state of Washington negligent? Answer, yes. What do you find plaintiff Charles Powell's total amount of damages? $57,500,000. Braden Powell's total amount of damages, $57,500,000.
For 8 years, the Cox family has been trying to find justice. And it took us a long time. And we took a long hiatus with the pandemic. Today, justice has been meted out.
What I intend to do is use the award to try and help other people in that so that we can save more children.
Jury members told ABC News they didn't believe any one individual at Child Protective Services was responsible for what happened. They blame a systematic failure for the tragedy.
It just came down to this. You cannot have reunification, as your goal at the expense of child safety. And, lawsuits change things. Brown versus Board of Education, Roe v. Wade. That's how things change.
So 2020 reached out to several agencies in both states, and they declined to comment or refer us to other departments. In the end, we were unable to get an answer to our questions. Could the actions of these agencies, or their inactions, have contributed to the murders of Braden and Charlie Powell?
My heart absolutely breaks for Chuck and Judy Cox. Think about what this couple has gone through. They lost their daughter. Both of their grandbabies were horrifically butchered. And the only 3 people that could shed any light on this are dead.
It should have never have got to the point where you had Josh getting his kids into that house and blowing it up.
Josh's actions are definitely an admission of guilt. She's gonna divorce him. If he can't have her, nobody will. So he kidnaps Susan and most likely murders her and disposes of her body. Where? Nobody knows.
I know there are 10,000 abandoned mines in Utah. That's a lot of places where you can dump a body.
We do begin tonight with the search happening hundreds of feet down, deep inside of a mine in Utah's West Desert. The search for Susan Powell's body continues.
Emily, what happened to Susan Powell is still unknown, and her family never got closure. But now a crew is searching a mine shaft in the West Desert.
Dave and I, since we were kids, we've been out exploring this sort of stuff since a long time ago. Our dad was one of these desert rats that just fell in love with the wide open spaces, the ghost towns. It's not surprising that we end up 30, plus years later out there doing it all over again.
Our business specializes in doing things that other people can't or won't do. But every once in a while we get a really cool opportunity to, get involved in a missing person case, like this one with Susan Powell. I was very fascinated with the idea of maybe helping find Susan. I've kind of just been following along ever since, and then we got a tip that there's a chance she's out here. The majority of our search, rescue, and recovery operations are all pro bono. We are not part of law enforcement. As a private entity and a volunteer search group, we can kind of just move faster. Early on in the excavation, roughly at about the 75-foot level, did just find a bone, looks like a rib. We were more motivated to keep getting down in there and removing more and more material. Every bucket load that we pulled out after that, we'd find a piece of vertebrae or a piece of rib. And that's when we started to get to some really exciting stuff, which was where we found, a pair of pants. First phone call with Susan's dad was like, okay, this is my guy. He drove through the night all the way down from Washington to be on site with us.
The likelihood is pretty low that we're going to find something. But on the other hand, she's still out there somewhere.
And Chuck kind of came over to me quietly and he's like, hey, I know how to operate a radio. Do you need help down there? And I said, Chuck, do you really want to go down in this hole? And he said, absolutely. He went from a father who was looking for the body of his daughter to part of the search team. We're still at the point where it's like, are the bones animal or they're human? And so we're excited to get the DNA test back.
It's a blessing, and I'm just so thankful that they're doing it, and I'm just grateful that people are still looking for Susan.
And we should point out tonight that the judge presiding over the Cox civil case has now cut their original award from $98 million to approximately $32 million, $16 million for each of the deceased boys.
And the Cox family has appealed the court's decision, as well as the fact that Washington State has been granted a new trial. That's our program for tonight. I'm Amy Robach.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at ABC News in 2020, good night.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đang quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Trong video ngày hôm nay thì xin mời các bạn hãy cùng đến với một câu chuyện được mang tựa đề Quà tặng cho những tâm hồn đang yêu, được gửi tới từ tác giả Nguyễn Mạnh Thảo. Và đây chính là một câu chuyện được nằm trong cuốn sách Hạt giống tâm hồn. Một câu chuyện thì khá là ngắn thôi, nó nằm gọn trong 2 trang và thậm chí là chưa đến 2 trang nữa các bạn, rất là ngắn ngủi. Thế nhưng mà nó lại để lại cho chúng ta những cái bài học vô cùng sâu sắc và ý nghĩa. Bây giờ chúng mình hãy cùng đến với nội dung của câu chuyện ngày hôm nay nhé. Quà tặng cho những tâm hồn đang yêu, đó chính là những cái câu nói mà dành cho những người đang yêu, và chắc chắn rằng những câu nói này các bạn sẽ cảm thấy thực sự ý nghĩa. Đừng quay lưng với tình yêu khi nó đang ở trước mắt bạn. Nếu làm như thế, một ngày nào đó bạn sẽ phải hối tiếc vì đã để tình yêu vỗ cánh bay đi. Một cái câu nói rất hay đúng không ạ? Các bạn đừng quay lưng với tình yêu của mình. Ví dụ như là chúng ta đang dành tình cảm cho một ai đó, hai người đang yêu nhau rất là nồng thắm vì một cái lý do nào đó ngoại cảnh ở bên ngoài tác động vào, mà chúng ta phải rời bỏ đi cái người mình yêu thương, tức là mình đang quay lưng lại với tình yêu của mình đấy ạ. Và khi mình quay lưng lại như thế thì một ngày nào đó mình sẽ cảm thấy hối tiếc. Hối tiếc vì điều gì ạ? Hối tiếc vì rất là nhiều thứ, vì thứ tình cảm mà đối phương đã dành cho mình, hoặc là về một cái điều gì đó. Khi các bạn quay lưng đi, các bạn khi chúng mình có thể ngoái nhìn lại, chúng mình sẽ cảm thấy rất là hối tiếc về cái khoảng thời gian đó. Tại sao mình lại quay lưng đi? Và lúc đó thì các bạn đã phải hối tiếc vì đã để tình yêu vô cánh bay đi. Đó, tự mình đạp đổ tình yêu của mình, đúng không ạ? Đó, một cái câu nói rất là hay, đấy là cái quà tặng thứ nhất. Chúng ta cùng mở quà tặng thứ hai các bạn nhé. Người ta thường mất hàng giờ để trò chuyện thân mật với một người, hàng ngày để ái mộ một người, hàng tuần để nhớ nhung một người, hàng tháng để yêu một người, nhưng chỉ trong nháy mắt là có thể nói lời chào từ biệt với một người, đúng không ạ? Câu này nói rất là hay, một món quà rất là hay, theo mình nghĩ là nó rất là ý nghĩa đấy ạ. Người ta có thể mất hàng giờ để trò chuyện thân mật với một người, đâu phải làm quen với một người là dễ đâu. Tự nhiên mình bắt chuyện với người ta đâu có đơn giản đâu, đúng không ạ? Một người xa lạ, ví dụ như là mình trên một chuyến xe buýt chẳng hạn, mình nhìn thấy cô này rất là thân thiện, mình muốn làm quen với họ, nhưng đâu có phải là mình đến mình nói chuyện với người ta được ngay đâu, đúng không ạ? Mình phải mất hàng giờ để có thể làm quen, rồi là có thể lân la câu chuyện, có thể chào hỏi, đó, chỉ mất hàng giờ luôn ấy ạ, chứ không thể nào mà mình đến một cái là mình bắt tay mình làm quen như đúng rồi luôn đâu. Đó, và hàng ngày để ái mộ một người, để có thể cảm thấy yêu quý một người, hoặc là có thể ái mộ một người rồi dành tình cảm cho một người, thì phải mất một ngày, có thể mất cả một ngày để chúng ta có thể hiểu về một người đó một tí xíu, một phần nào đó. Rồi hàng tuần để nhớ nhung một người, ví dụ như là trong một cái tuần này chúng ta đi công tác chẳng hạn, chúng ta gặp gỡ một cái anh A, anh B nào gì đó, thì chúng ta giao tiếp với cái anh A, anh B đó, thì chúng ta cảm thấy anh A, anh B đó là người như thế nào, thì đó, thì cả một tuần đó thì chúng ta mới cảm thấy rằng là mình có tình cảm với người ta hay không, hay là có nhớ nhung người ta hay không. Rồi hàng tháng để yêu một người, đó, chúng ta cần phải một thời gian rất là dài để chúng ta có thể có tình cảm, có thể là có cái chút tình cảm gì đó từ trong cơ thể của mình, trong bản thân của mình dành tặng cho một ai đó, chứ không phải là ngày hôm nay tôi gặp cái là tôi yêu ngay đâu, làm gì có chuyện đó, đúng không các bạn? Đó, tình yêu thì cần phải có thời gian. Đó, thế nhưng mà chỉ trong nháy mắt thôi, một cái nháy mắt các bạn thấy là rất là nhanh, đúng không ạ? Một nháy mắt thôi để có thể nói lời chào từ biệt một người. Ví dụ như là gì? Chúng ta chia tay đi. Đó, lời chào tạm biệt một phát là có thể là chia tay ngay. Thế nhưng mà cái gì ạ? Nhưng mà cái lời nói đó nó sẽ có thể là ăn sâu và làm tổn thương chúng ta rất là ghê gớm. Đó, nên trước khi nói lời tạm biệt, nói lời từ biệt, nói lời chia tay với một người, chúng ta nên cân nhắc thật là kỹ. Bởi vì tất cả những chúng ta gây dựng sẽ rất là mất thời gian. Đó, chúng ta mất thời gian để làm quen, rồi chúng ta mất thời gian để nhớ nhung, rồi chúng ta mất thời gian để yêu, và mất rất nhiều thời gian. Thế nhưng để nói lời chào tạm biệt thì rất là nhanh, và để có thể thu hồi lại được cái tin nhắn, thu hồi lại được cái lời nói đó thì rất là khó luôn. Khi chúng ta đã nói ra rồi, thì khi chúng ta đã làm tổn thương người ta rồi, người khác rồi, thì khi thu lại rất là khó. Nên chúng ta cố gắng làm sao trước khi nói ra những lời nói chia tay, lời nói tạm biệt, chúng ta cần phải suy nghĩ thật là kỹ. Tình yêu không phải là điều cần nắm giữ trong tay, mà là điều ta phải cho đi. Rất là hay. Đừng lo lắng con tim sẽ đưa ta đến đâu, vì trái tim tự biết con đường của nó. Đó, chúng ta đừng lo lắng một ngày mai rằng tình yêu của chúng mình sẽ đi đến đâu, rồi là nó có hạnh phúc hay không, hay là nó như thế nào, nó có đau khổ, hay là có được hạnh phúc như ta mong muốn. Điều này chúng ta không thể nào lo lắng, chúng ta không thể nào mà điều khiển được. Mà hãy lắng nghe trái tim mình, hãy lắng nghe con tim của mình, tự nó sẽ cần biết mình sẽ phải đi như thế nào và làm như thế nào để đi theo con đường của tình yêu của mình. Đó, khi yêu một người thì xin đừng quá chú tâm vào lỗi lầm của người đó, mà hãy biết chấp nhận những lỗi lầm ấy với một tấm lòng vị tha và bao dung, đúng không ạ? Chính xác là như thế. Khi chúng ta yêu nhau, chúng ta đừng nên là quá soi xét là ôi anh như thế này không được, anh như thế kia không được, hoặc là lời nói của anh như thế này, hoặc là hành động của anh như thế này, hoặc là đơn giản chỉ là tại sao ngày hôm nay Valentine mà anh chỉ tặng tôi món quà như thế này. Điều đó thật là vô vị, đúng không ạ? Đó, mà hãy chấp nhận những lỗi lầm của người đó. Chẳng may ví dụ như anh ấy lỡ hẹn một lần thì nên cho anh ấy cơ hội giải thích và sửa đổi, đúng không ạ? Đó, chúng ta nên có một cái tấm lòng vị tha, bao dung và chấp nhận, lắng nghe, thấu hiểu thì tình yêu mới bền chặt được. Một cái quà tặng tiếp theo nữa đó là đừng nhào nặn người yêu của mình theo khuôn mẫu của bạn, mà nếu không thì bạn chỉ yêu hình bóng của mình phản chiếu nơi họ mà thôi. Đó, anh ấy là anh ấy và mình là mình, đừng nên áp đặt cái quan điểm của mình vào anh ấy. Và nếu như mình áp đặt quá, nó sẽ là cái tấm phản chiếu của mình, anh ấy sẽ là tấm phản chiếu của mình, chứ không phải là anh ấy nữa. Hãy để anh ấy là anh ấy, mình là mình, đúng không ạ? Đừng áp đặt cái quan điểm của mình lên anh ấy, và anh ấy cũng không được áp đặt cái quan điểm của anh ấy lên mình. Đó, tình yêu giống như thủy ngân trong lòng bàn tay, hãy để những ngón tay duỗi ra thì nó lưu lại, nắm thật chặt thì nó trôi đi mất. một cái món quà rất là hay và ý nghĩa trong ngày hôm nay. Cảm ơn các bạn đã dành thời gian theo dõi cái video ngày hôm nay của mình. Một cái món quà tặng cho những tâm hồn đang yêu thật là ý nghĩa. Những bạn nào đang yêu, sẽ yêu thì hãy nên đọc những cái câu chuyện như thế này, rất là ý nghĩa. Và hy vọng rằng các bạn sẽ có thể nhặt nhạnh được những cái kinh nghiệm bổ ích, những cái triết lý, những cái câu nói rất là hay để mình có thể áp dụng vào tình yêu của mình. Chúc các bạn có những giây phút vui vẻ và chúc các bạn có những tình yêu thật đẹp.